All right. Good evening. My name is Keith Romano. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Just for the record, the recorder is on. This is the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting for the town of Monroe. It is December 9th, 2020, and it is 7:03 p.m. I will take a roll call. The members of the commission and staff present during tonight's remote meeting. Please answer here are present, starting with myself, Keith Romano. Lois Spence, our vice president and secretary.
Here.
Jim Stewart, who's a licensed engineer and surveyor in the state of Connecticut, who's also our treasurer.
Here.
Clark Gingras.
Here.
Ross Masaraco.
Here.
BJ Hall.
Here.
Denise Halstead, our Inland Wetlands agent.
Here.
Donna Suzinski, our office manager.
Here.
Sarah Stroud, our recording secretary.
Here.
And Barbara Schellingberg, our counsel.
Here.
Before we start, I'll read our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed. Inland Wetlands Mission Statement. The objective and purpose of the Inland Wetlands Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland wetlands and water courses within the town of Monroe. Meeting procedure. In the normal course of our meetings, we will hear the public hearing and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have an applicant make a presentation to the commission, during which and after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. Due to remote meeting status, I'd like to ask that the applicants to keep the presentation as concise as possible. The commission will then review town staff and other independent comments. The meeting will then be open for public comment. I will ask that all comments be made to the chair or commission. After any and all comments pro, in opposition, or of general nature are made, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. Again, due to remote meeting status, please keep comments or questions direct and at a time limit of 3 minutes may be imposed. It's not necessary that the applicant respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. There will be no further opportunity for new questions unless new material is entered in as evidence or testimony during their response. Please keep all comments pro and con specific to inland wetlands related matters. Other applications that do not involve a public hearing will follow a similar format with the exception of no public comment allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless otherwise amended. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Denise, did you have changes?
I have a change. We're adding 10 Victoria Drive under other. It's a quick, maybe 5-minute discussion at tops.
Okay, so that's item E.
E.
And you said it was 10 Victoria?
10 Victoria Drive.
Denise, does the discussion of the P&Z
Referral?
thing have to be on the agenda?
It is on the
It
agenda.
is on the agenda. It was under the wrong spot, so that should 1585 Monroe Turnpike referral to P&Z should actually be at the beginning of the under B4 subdivision report recommendations to P&Z Commission.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we're moving that.
Yes.
Someone's typing. It's very loud. It's probably, I think it was Kevin.
It was.
Okay.
I apologize.
No worries. Okay, then what we're gonna do is, again, we're gonna leave the 64 IWC 2020-03R 64 Cambridge for Independence to the last portion of today's meeting. So moving along, this is the point of the meeting where it's general public participation. Anybody in the public have anything to say of a general nature or question to this commission?
This is Larry Edwards, professional engineer. We have a referral on the agenda for Stevenson Lumber that you're going to be looking at. And I have another Zoom meeting to be involved in, and I was just going to put forward if anybody had any questions, I could answer them at this point. Otherwise, I might not be on when you get to the other end. I'm just trying to play a little bit ahead of the game here.
This probably, where's that on the agenda?
That's the one that we just moved to the
Oh,
the
right.
top.
Well, that's what we're
It's
starting with.
under other on the printed agenda.
Yeah, that's what we're starting with. So
Yeah.
Oh, okay, very
go
good.
ahead.
So
So that's where we're at. We're on,
Could you promote Ian to bring a
hold on 1 second. 1585 Monroe Turnpike, referral to P&Z Stevenson Lumber. State your name for the record, please.
Larry Edwards, professional engineer, address 227 Stepney Road, Easton, Connecticut.
Okay. Did everyone get I believe Denise sent you a link that gave you the information regarding it, regarding the application in front of planning and zoning. It's my understanding that they are doing a zone, hold on 1 second. A zone change, creating a new zone, which would be called SB2, and they're doing a text amendment for that zone. Did everyone get the link?
Yes.
Okay. The Stevenson Lumber is currently a business zone, and the combination is going to be business and some industrial. And so the wording has been added to add some, let's see, like parking garages and commercial parking facility, and they're creating a new zone. The indoor cultivation is, I believe, like hydroponic. But Larry, if you want to give a very short synopsis of the application in front of planning and zoning, and then the commission can make their comments that they want to give to the Planning and Zoning Commission as a referral.
Okay, can you allow Ian Eller to bring a plan in?
Hold on 1 second. You want to be made you want to share your screen?
Yeah, if you could, please.
Okay.
Not mine, Ian Eller. I'm not the tech guy. There you go. You got it, Jim. Thanks. Okay. Can
Somehow you
everybody
got
see the
muted,
screen?
Larry.
Yep, I just came back on. Can everybody see the
Okay.
screen? Basically, what we're showing here is the dark brown are the existing buildings that are on the site. And the proposal at this point before planning and zoning is to, as Donna had stated before, is to change the zone. And as part of the zone, we are required to prepare a master plan of what the potential of the site would be. The only improvements as part of that master plan is going to be taking basically everything in gray right now is paved area. We are actually going to be taking what is showing as this road coming in off of 111 between the two buildings. And we're actually going to be putting in green area to create the outline of the road. And there will be a private driveway or private road that will be built as part of this master plan approval. That is the only thing in the landscaping associated with that is the only construction item that's going to take place as part of the master plan approval. After that, each of the buildings are on a separate parcel, and any development of those buildings will come back as a special exception permit and will require zoning approval, would require approval from your commission and all the other agencies of the town. But at this point, the master plan is just to create this road. So there's an entrance, we're going to dress it up so it looks nice so that the applicant can hopefully be able to promote the development of these buildings. Right now, they're all abandoned. The parking lot is unused for anything. So it's basically we're taking and putting in additional landscaping is really what we're doing in terms of and reducing the impervious area on the site. And that construction, the closest point is there is a pond that is behind this smaller building. That's an existing pond, and that goes into a pipe that goes under the parking area and discharges out to the north on the railroad tracks. That's all existing. That's not going to be touched. And the closest point of this landscaping and what we're going to make a designated road is about 140 feet from that pond. So, and it's downhill of the pond so that there is no chance anything's going to get into the pond. So that's really the extent of what's going to happen in the master plan component of this. And as I said, when this hopefully gets approved and different applicants come in for whatever they're going to do to the individual lots and the buildings, that again will come back to the zoning commission and back to you for review. So that's basically an overview of what the project is.
Okay. So you're more than 100 feet away. I'm not even sure why we're even hearing this.
Well, to be honest with you, we didn't think it had to go to you, and we didn't present an application to you, but I guess as part of the zone change, it's been referred to you as a referral.
So
They're creating a brand new zone in town, and they're also creating new uses in that zone. So it will continue to have the retail use, but now they're also adding part industrial use to it. And so that's what the Planning and Zoning Commission is looking for information. And in that, the link that was sent to you, I know this was very short notice, it has a schematic of the uses that were allowed, and it's called, again, SB2. So anywhere where you see that SB2 in the report, those are the new uses that they're adding into this district, this new zone. And we don't have another, so it's a combination of retail and industrial, which Monroe doesn't have another area like that.
And again, this obviously was a lumberyard previously, which had, which was an approved use within the DB zone. I think it was a DB zone before. And so yes, the uses are going to be expanded to some extent, but again, there is nothing proposed here for any of the buildings until such time as a tenant comes in that would be interested in them.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question?
sure, Commissioner Hall.
It's Commissioner Hall. This is not changing, this rezoning is not changing any of the current boundaries of this business zone. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So there is no impact on wetlands or setback or any of the existing current conditions.
That's correct.
And you're not asking for any changes to setbacks or boundaries or, I know the river is very close behind there.
No, and actually, the railroad tracks are between the river and this property.
Um,
But all of that, any further changes are out of scope of what you're discussing here tonight.
That's correct, yes. Nothing is going to change until such time as the applicant comes in for the individual buildings. And again, the buildings are there. So it's not that we're going to move anything because the buildings are existing and we're just going to work. The intent is to reuse those buildings and try to make it a reuse of an existing facility.
Okay, thank you.
So Donna, what do we do here?
May I make a comment?
What?
Go ahead, Lois.
I just wanted to mention that,
Are you cooking, Daddy?
excuse me?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I wanted to mention that even though our URA is not actually abutting these properties or on these properties, it is on extremely steep slope. All two directions, steep slope. And we do have the provision within our regulations to declare that we can decide anything that's on a steep slope. If we're concerned about what could possibly be running off of there, we can declare a larger upland review area according to our regulations. So even though it's not among the standard ones, if we feel that there could be a potential for pollution and one of the proposed uses is commercial vehicle parking and other kind of things which could have a very heavy pollutant load. So that's something we need to keep in mind. I don't know how that works into what it is that we're doing tonight, but I also don't know when, are these all happening at the same time? The regulation change, the zone change, and the application? I'm a little confused there. Mr. Edwards, can you clear that up for me?
Yep. As far as the process, again, it's a text amendment to and creating a new zone. And so it's a zone change. And as part of that newly created zone, this master plan component is a part of that zone. And that was implemented by the zoning department as a means to have an overview of the whole site, along with providing review of the individual sites. So what's going to happen right now is, again, all this is proposed is to change the zone, and to, as part of that master plan component, is to create this private road as an access to the site. That's all. We're not doing anything that goes in each one of these buildings. If they're going to do outside storage, they're going to do outside parking, they're going to renovate the buildings, is all going to be through a special exception process with the zoning department. And likewise, that's going to require an application to your commission too. So, but again, the part that's in gray that's going to be used is relatively flat. It's been flattened. I mean, this site was a steep site before the lumberyard was developed, but now the green part here in the center is very steep and very rocky. And all of the gray areas have been leveled out so that they're flat and they're already paved. So if anything going forward, it's most likely going to be the case where there's going to be quite a bit more green area coming back into the site versus what's there now. Because the planning is going to require buffer areas and so forth. So it's not going to be an increase in pavement going forward. It's probably going to be a substantial decrease in pavement as each of these sites become developed.
Okay, when is it that P and Z is deciding on this?
We had a public hearing last week or the week before, and it's going to be continued to January. So
So we do have
there's
a
not
little
going to be
bit.
a need for you guys to act on this tonight.
Okay, good. That's what I needed to know.
But
Okay,
I wanted to make sure I got in, so if you had questions, I could at least answer them to you. So if you do take action, I at least had a concept of what was going on.
okay. When is P and Z taking input into the text amendment for the proposed amendment?
All right,
When-
can you say that
This
again?
needs to be, you need to do that tonight because
Night?
the hearing will probably close.
Why did we not find out about this until the late 11th hour?
It was an oversight by someone.
This 11th hour stuff is getting a little old. Okay, well then, in that case, I don't know, when are we going to discuss this? Is this happened in deliberations or do we,
No, you can discuss it right now. It's, all you're doing is giving your comments and your thoughts on it. So like if you want to, if the commission as a whole wants to say, look, we want to make sure that, anything impacting the wetlands comes back to us as applications, you can say that. You've done referrals in the past for other applications and you just, any thoughts, if you strongly object to something changing, if you have concerns about uses, you can make statements and letting the commission know, the Planning and Zoning Commission know that that's what the Inland Wetland Commission has concerns about. And it just helps them in their deliberations to go forward with the application.
So we all already know that if they're gonna if they're gonna move a pound of earth within 100 feet of that water, they gotta come back to us, right? So that's easy. If we want to add maybe anything where those ponds are within a upland watershed, we could add that, but this should be the easiest thing to do for tonight.
I
Do you have
don't
anything
see that
to
I'm
add?
concerned about this at all. I think in the end product, it'll be better for the wetlands and the environment in the town. So therefore, I'm going to make a motion to give a positive referral for 1585 Monroe Turnpike, P&Z Stevenson Dam.
We got a motion for a positive referral from Commissioner Stewart. Do we have a second? Second by
Second.
Commissioner Hall. All in favor?
Aye.
Is everybody all in favor? It looks like, aye. I think that's, okay. Okay, if we got four, well then, I'm sorry. It's the pictures are so small, I can't tell who's who. So, all right, any opposed?
hey,
Okay, anybody opposed? We got one opposed. Any abstentions? Okay, so I believe that's a 5-1.
I would put on the
there's a
record,
serious issue here. There's a
to be
serious,
clear, which commissioners voted in favor and which voted against.
Yeah, there's, in favor was Commissioner Stewart, Commissioner Massaraco, Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Gingras, and myself, and opposed is Commissioner Spence. Okay,
Okay.
I don't see Clark though. Where is he? Oh, there you are. Your head's down. Okay. And Commissioner Stewart, I believe your camera's yeah, all right. Thank you. This makes life easier. All right, so moving along.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, regular meeting, no public input, public hearings. IWC 2020-03R is moved to the end of the meeting. IWC 2020-05, 195, 201, and 211 Main Street. Proposed 3-story senior housing, paved entrance, parking patio, grading.
I know, but why did you put a sword for her?
Oh, Clark, you could,
Sorry,
I'll start over. IWC 2020-05, 195, 201 and 211 Main Street, proposed 3-story senior housing, paved entrance, parking, patio, grading, and landscaping. Mutual Housing Associated of Southwestern Connecticut, Inc., DBA Connecticut Housing Partners, opening of hearing. Who is presenting?
Hello, this is Emily Weckman with 2 Design. May I request to share a screen?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so does everyone see the shared screen with the inland wetland permit application?
Yes.
Okay. Great, thank you. Okay, I will begin. Good evening, my name is Emily Weckman. I am a landscape architect from the Office of 2 Design. I am speaking on behalf of our team and our client, Connecticut Housing Partners. Connecticut Housing Partners currently has 508 units with 15 developments and is leading the charge as one of the area's most active producers and managers of affordable housing. Their mission is to create and sustain innovative housing, revitalize neighborhoods, and enhance quality of life for low and moderate income residents. They've been building this mission for nearly 3 decades, and we believe that this senior housing development will bring those elements to Monroe's community. Our existing site includes 3 properties, 195, 201, and 211 Main Street. These properties are located off Old Main Street that runs parallel with Route 25 and total just over 2 acres. They are currently zoned as B1. 2 of the existing parcels have homes on them, while the 3rd is wooded. The site consists of steep slopes to the north and south, as well as along Old Main Street. The Pequannock River and the 100-year floodplain line is located to the east of the project across Route 25. We are here tonight as a small portion of the site along the southeast property line is located within the 150-foot Pequannock River upland regulated area. The proposed development provides 49 units of affordable senior housing to the community. We have submitted an application to the Planning and Zoning Commission that includes a new affordable housing district zone that this property would comply with. The proposed 3-story New England style building is sited at the north end of the site. Each unit will be approximately 700 square feet and will provide primary function for independent living. The building will also include common amenity spaces such as a community room, nurse's office, hair salon, and chapel and media room. A 59-car parking lot will accommodate residents and visitors. A proposed patio extends off the south end of the building to provide a sunny outdoor space for residents to enjoy. The new access drive is located to the north, connecting to Old Main Street with a proposed T intersection to Route 25. The grading of the site responds to the existing conditions and constraints related to the septic system. Retaining walls are located at the northwest corner and along the east. Boulder walls are proposed on the west and south slopes. Any slope greater than 3:1 will be treated with riprap. Other site improvements include site lighting, signage, trash enclosure, fencing, modular block walls, and plantings. The septic and drainage systems are located under the parking lot. The drainage system is designed to accommodate a 100-year storm and has no direct impact to the wetlands. Dave Bjorklund, the civil engineer, is present to address any drainage or septic questions. We also have other members of the team present to help address any other questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start with the first question. Could someone show us on this plan the parts of this project that are within our area of?
Yeah, here I switched the screen and here it is in the crosshatch of the red. Here's the property line in black, and that is the 150-foot Pequannock River regulated area line.
Okay, so you're draining some water into a catch basin. It's kind of, you could zoom in.
Okay.
I can't tell.
I'm sorry. So the entire parking lot uses catch basin and it's
Move it
curved.
down so we could see this area. Just so we could see the area that we're concerned about.
I'm sorry, right here?
If
So
you
here's
could
the
go down to the, show us the, in this blown up, show us the red hashed area. That's, so we can see what's, just
I'm-
scroll down so we can see the bottom of the, you know.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you can't see that. Okay.
A little
Okay.
more. A little bit more. All right, good, thank you.
Okay, let me move this screen so I can see what you're seeing. I apologize.
That's a retaining wall. Is that what we see, a retaining wall there and then some boulders?
Yes, retaining wall with a small boulder wall. We have our curb line for the parking lot and the catch
Okay.
basin.
The catch basin is that square, half shaded square?
Yes, right there,
Yeah, okay, catch basin's not showing.
correct.
Okay.
And that is a site lighting fixture.
Okay. And that's curbed? We have curbs around the whole thing?
Correct, it's fully
Everything.
curbed with all the water being intercepted into the catch basin.
Okay, I just have a question. Why is the, why would the road be kept? I'm just curious. It's probably has nothing to do with the applicant, but I'm curious. Is there any talk about actually removing the road below?
Some other team members might be able to give more input, but is under my understanding that it is requested by DOT for Old Main Street to remain.
Okay, that's good. I'm all set. Anybody else?
And our team has been in discussions with DOT regarding that, so we worked on the intersection with them. So you may notice that north of our intersection, we do remove portion of Old Main Street, but then to the south, the existing road does remain. And that was in conversations with DOT.
Can you talk briefly about your stormwater system and your discharge?
Yes, I will turn that over to Dave Bjorklund, who is the civil engineer on this project. Dave, would you like me to switch to your civil sheet?
That might be helpful, Emily. Okay.
And I'll zoom in a little bit to that area.
This is Dave Bjorklund, professional engineer with Spath Bjorklund Associates. We are responsible on this site for the design of the septic system and the stormwater system. We have, as you can see from the drawing, just south of the proposed building, we have a large field of galleys. Those are 4x4 galleys that are going to provide, we're going to detain the 2 through the 100-year storm. In that, we also have water quality vortex separators that are going to route the stormwater through those before the discharge. The discharge, there's been an existing catch basin. For those of you who are, I'm sure everybody's a little familiar with the site. There's an island between Old Main Street and New Main Street. And Emily's pointing out there's been a catch basin there for years to drain that area. DOT in conversations with them as they've requested that they rebuild it, that we rebuild it because it's an old dry stone structure. And from there, we're tying into that, and that flows across Main Street and discharges in just off the edge of Main Street. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Stewart?
You're also cleaning the outlet on the other side of Route 25?
Yes, it's pretty built up with sediment. It probably hasn't been touched in 50 years.
Can you show us your sediment erosion control plan as well?
Yes,
Emily, that's Emily's responsibility. She'll take over.
let me flip to that. apologize. Okay. Here is our grading plan that shows the overall silt fencing that will be around the site and the protection around any new catch basins. So we do have the silt fence going around the entire property, except for uphill, which is on the northwest side.
Is that a retaining wall on the northwest side?
Yes, up here, this is a retaining wall on the northwest side.
Is there any water draining through there, or does it drain to the front of the property?
We do have outlets that pick up any water from that area and would be tied into our storm system.
Thanks.
So the entire site drains to that one portion, that one outlet that goes across Main Street?
Yes. Primarily, we've routed, and the site today basically drains to Old Main Street.
And how far is the river and wetlands on the other side of Main Street? From Main Street? I mean, we can only see up as far as the other side of the street, but how far is it to wetlands or the river from there?
I'm sorry, you're asking about across Main Street?
Yes, I wanted to know how far the water has before it actually hits wetlands or the river.
Okay, so let me switch to a plan where you might be able to see. On the rendered plan, here is our 100-foot wetland offset line. Here is the approximate wetland line. So from here to basically Old Main is 100 feet from the wetland offset.
Okay, so then almost as soon as it goes under Main Street, it's going right into the wetlands.
Correct.
And that's correct?
Correct. The wetland is gonna maybe 20 feet off the road, the wetland line.
Yeah, if the commissioner.
About 20 feet off the wetland, from the curb line, it's about 20 feet.
Yeah, the wetlands are about 15 to 20 feet, and then in that area, the actual, river is further out. But we didn't do any mapping in that area because we don't own it.
Correct. You start to see some of the river bending into our area here with this blue line. That is some of the edges of the river bending into the area. Otherwise, it goes even further.
Okay, one more question then. How much of the drainage that will be going into the river from it, or that area of, it's not the river, but how much of the water that will now be going to there was not going there before? How much excess is there to that section than there was before?
Well, Dave, I would say that and Dave might have a little bit more input on this, but the entire site basically drains towards Main Street to that existing catch basin.
Okay, so it all basically did go there, we're just channeling in a different way.
So, yes, there is that island in between. So I don't know if Dave has any more input on that.
There are no curbs on Old Main Street, so basically everything that came off of this site came down and eventually got its way across Old Main Street and into that center island.
Was there any attempt made to make that into a swale or a rain garden or something along those lines?
That center island is off of our property. We don't own it. So we aren't able to change it.
Okay, I understand.
However, I do believe that the contract purchaser, Connecticut Housing, had approached DOT to purchase that island area with just that in mind, and the request was rejected.
Correct.
It would have been ideal.
Sure would. Okay, well, thank you very much. That's it for my questions.
Okay, a couple more things. Your sediment erosion control plan doesn't seem to include the drainage that you're proposing to install along Old Main Street.
We can amend that to include some sedimentation control along that.
And we should probably put something at the end of the pipe where you're excavating it. I don't know what it is, if it's silt or something where you can just dig it and just be done, or if it's something that's got to be reestablished after you leave.
Having seen that area, this is something that's going to have to be done by hand. You know, there's no way. Off of Main Street on that easterly side, it drops off 3 or 4 feet. It's really well wooded. You know, it's a well-established wetland area, and I think the only way to clean that area out is going to be to get in there by hand. There's no opportunity to get a machine in there.
Okay, so then your contract limits need to be adjusted to include that work as well.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. Commissioner Gingras, have any questions?
No, they took care of everything. Thanks.
Commissioner Massaraco?
I have nothing.
Okay, someone like to make a motion to move this to deliberation?
You
Make a
want to
motion
close?
that we move this to deliberation.
Got a motion, a second? Second by Commissioner
I
Hall, in favor? Up. Any discussion? I'm sorry, any discussion on the motion?
We need to close the hearing, not move it to deliberations.
Oh, sorry.
And this was a public hearing, was it not?
Yes,
It
was.
is.
Close
And
the
I
public
also
hearing.
need to read the exhibits, so.
We can't
Oh,
close
yeah.
anything yet.
Go ahead, Donna.
Okay, do you want to pull the public?
I pull my out.
Withdraw the motion.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay. Do you want to pull the public first before I read exhibits?
Yeah, anybody in the public have anything to say about this application? In favor, in opposition, and/or of a general nature? Doesn't look like anybody. Okay, Tom, you could read the exhibits.
Okay. Exhibit 1 is Town Engineer Review Comments 1, the document was dated October 7th. Exhibit 2 is Inland Wetland Agent Review Comments by Denise Halstead. The document was dated September 28th. Exhibit 3 is Health Department Comments by Matt Bertoli. That was October 13th. Exhibit 4 was the request by the applicant to table the public hearing. That was October 20th. Exhibit 5 was response to comments, mailing receipts, photo of sign at project locations by Emily Weckman. That was document dated October 20th. Exhibit 6 was the updated engineering report. That was document dated September 16th, updated October 19th. Exhibit 7 was a 19-sheet plan set titled Inland Wetland Monroe Senior Housing by Staff Jarklin. Exhibit 8 was updated Inland Wetland Agent Comments by Denise Halstead. Revision date was November 5th. And Exhibit 9 was updated town engineer comments by Scott Shatline, and the revision date was November 12th. And then Exhibit 10 was updated town engineer comments. The revision date was December 8th. And those are the exhibits for this application.
And Donna, Emily Weckman from 2 Design, Dave Bjorklund, did you receive those updated town engineer comments that she mentioned from November 12th? And I believe there was a second one on December.
Yes, we did receive them. We received another copy this morning. And it appears that the issues are we have to approach DOT. We know that there will be DOT curb cut permits and drainage permits. As Emily said, we've already been in touch with DOT with regards to both curb cuts and drainage. And we forwarded some of the details that Scott was looking for today. And we gave comments, but we did not provide him with the full report. The revised report. We'll provide that in the next couple of days.
Okay, Dave. Donna, I did not receive those comments by email. If you could forward those on to me from the town engineer.
Certainly.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure. Okay. So Keith, now you can take it. You can continue, close, or make your determination.
Anybody like to make a motion to close the hearing?
Make a motion to close the hearing.
Motion by Commissioner Gingrich. Second? Second by Commissioner Hall. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion passes unanimously, although, Jim, did you vote?
Went a little quick for me, but I'm good with it. It passed.
So I didn't know, well, okay. That's a in favor of,
I just wanted to make sure Denise was all set.
yeah, she just,
Denise, you're good?
I'm here now.
You're good?
Yeah, my comments, for the most part have been addressed.
Okay, we can handle anything you've got in comments and everything?
Yeah, my comments were very, not much of anything, and Scott's
Okay.
are being addressed too, so,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
so the motion passes unanimously. Okay. Moving along, IWC 2020-08, 169 Enterprise Drive, commercial rock processing with parking, septic, grading, building, opening of the hearing. Who's this one? Anybody here to present for IWC 2020-08?
I am Alan Shepard.
Thank you. Name for the record. I mean, your name, but other.
My name is Alan Shepard, professional engineer, partner in the firm of Nowakowski, Obim, Chow & Kane, 415 Howe Avenue, Shelton, Connecticut.
Go ahead.
So what we have before you is a proposal that was previously approved for a site plan for a building. We would like to do a smaller buildings, 2 separate buildings for a rock business. What our stone does is they actually split rocks for a living and make the rocks that you see on buildings, the base of masonry wall type of blocks that you see, or stone work. So they do that. So their business entails getting rocks from the area. They take it, they break it up. So they would have hoppers in the back where they take the different stone and they look at the different color and the different types of stone. and then actually split them and cut them in the buildings. So basically their operation would be piling rocks and splitting them, then they packaged them up on skids and ship them out. So it's a pretty benign operation as far as that is concerned. They've been in operation. It's a business that has a little bit of track record now. They want to move out of their current location to Monroe. So what we did is we kind of mimicked the existing conditions that were approved before and actually downsized it a little bit. It will have a little less, the parking lot on the approved plan, the previously approved plan was 30 feet. We'll have 54 feet to the parking lot. The septic system, we're gonna hold in the same area, so that's gonna stay the same at about 52. And then the limited disturbance, where it was previously approved to 10 feet, we're going a little less than that, is 15 feet. We're not having any outlets discharging to Monroe. We're taking it all to the Newtown side, so all our discharge, our stormwater discharge, would go to Newtown, where they had a manure operation and had ponds for that, quality ponds for the manure operation. We're gonna repurpose those and use those for our stormwater, 1 inch of rainfall for stormwater. We're not gonna do stormwater detention because of the pine swamp at back of us is large, but we'll have water quality. That has been submitted to Newtown side and has been signed off by the Newtown side. That's a brief overview. If everybody have questions.
I will tell the commission that we received quite a bit of new information yesterday, including a drainage area map, drainage calculations, and a response to the town engineer comments, which the commission, it is up on the town website, but the commission has not seen this information. I thought, Mr. Shepherd, if you could put those new maps up.
The map, the maps that, and I don't know if I could put that up, but the maps that it's referring to is the drainage report. So Scott, the town engineer, asked to do a drainage report, which I did a pipe-to-pipe analysis for the catch basins on the site. So that was the additional map. There was no changes to the overall map. It was just we added broke down the watersheds for different maps. Let me see if I can. So it's a map, if you can see, I'll do it this way. It's a map, the same map that we have, but we just broke down the different watersheds for the drainage report. So, the little which catch basins, the town engineer's concern was that, well, basically has a couple concerns, and I'll go over that. One of the concerns is that our parking lot is relatively flat. And not our parking lot, but in the back of the building, the process area in back of the building. We have skid steers going around. The client has skid steers. We know it's pretty flat. So the grade is 1% for the area in the back, 0.5% going from catch bin to catch basin. We have 9 catch basins over 2.5 acres. That's about 1/4 of an acre for catch basin. We feel that's adequate, but we'll add more if need be. So that's what that additional information was for the drainage concerns that the town engineer had. What he has, and I don't know if he's completely happy with that, because he said he's still concerned with it. But that's stuff that I believe we can work out with him, and we would prefer to keep the back area relatively flat. You don't want tow motors going around on different slopes and stuff, especially carrying rocks. The other issue that he had, he wanted to review the water quality basins that are in Newtown. And I respectively feel that that's on the Newtown side. That was reviewed and approved by Newtown. You know, I don't know if there's a lot of desire to have Monroe review that side, you know, of the project. And I'll put it this way, for Newtown, they had designed that for manure composting pile. So that was designed and approved for a manure composting pile. And what we're doing now is we're storing rocks over there and taking in the drainage for the site. So they were okay with it. Hopefully that makes sense. And the other thing that he wanted was me to show the roof drains that are connected, how they're connected to catch basins, which we have no problem. I put it on the drainage map. He wants it on the overall site plan. So it was new information. Apologize for not getting it sooner. You know, the board can make the decision. We're not. We're going to work with the board on whatever.
Alan, I have a quick question.
Yes,
Chief, may I ask a question?
sure.
Scott's letter also referred to a bond estimate should be provided. Was that in the new submission at all?
That was in the original submission.
Okay, I'm just looking at his notes from
Yeah,
the original
I know.
review.
I submitted it twice and I submitted it again. So,
Okay.
And he made a modification when we're fine with that.
Thank you.
The bond recommendation is $23,000.
Yes, and we're fine with that.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. On the plan, oops, am I muted? No. Okay, on the plan here, it says the temporary topsoil pile area is also the same place where it's going to be incoming rock.
Correct.
Okay, and then the storage bins over the 20 by 15 foot storage bins, those are finished product or also inbound rock?
The storage bins for processed rock. So what they'll do is they'll take the bulk rock, they'll probably store that over on the Newtown site. So obviously when a site removes a large amount of rock, they'll buy in quantity, store that over there. What they'll do is separate it and put it in the hoppers or the bins. So what their guys will do is take a look at the type of rock that they're getting, the color, all that stuff that goes along with it. They can see the difference in the rocks. And then they'll put it in their process bins that you see in back of the 81 by 110 building.
Yep.
They take that out and then bring it into the buildings for chopping. First they chop it and then they'll cut it.
And then where is the outbound product stored?
The outbound product will mostly be shipped out as they go along. If they have outbound spot, on occasion, once in a while, they'll overproduce, or if they have a big job. And the intent is to store that in the Newtown side over where it says outside storage area, because they don't want it in the yard area where it's gonna clog up the yard area. That's for, their operation has, as you can imagine, these tow motors going around loading up the hoppers and stuff, so they don't want it stored in their yard proper. And most of the time it's like they load it on the trucks and ship it out.
Tell me how the outside cutting water settling tanks, how does that work? I mean, I know what they are, but how are they going to be used, and what's the process and the time frame?
Sure. What they do is for the cutting side of it, as you can imagine, there's stone dust and stuff from the cutting process.
Mhm.
They store that into, if you will, they're like large septic tanks that are outside the building. You have a system that goes into there. And then once they get full, what they'll do is they'll pump them out. And on occasion, they'll have to clean them out of silt. So they do that periodically at the process they're doing right now. I looked at it at their site right now and it works pretty well. I mean, it's not complicated. They just store it, hold it, and it gets pumped out and then excavated out when they have to.
When
Pumped out.
when it's
Yeah.
pumped out, where does it go?
They have a pumping company come in and pump it out.
Okay. And I guess when they clean out the tanks, the solids, they go into a dump truck and are hauled off site, right?
Correct.
There's no other storage of those cuttings on the site?
No other storage.
There's no other storage of the cuttings other than inside the tanks?
Correct.
They don't get piled up somewhere and
No.
moved out later? Okay. That's all my questions. Let me go down the line. Let's start with Commissioner Spence.
I don't have any.
Thank you. Commissioner Stewart?
Are you feeling that one single silt fence is enough along that 10-foot berm?
Well, we are gonna have a berm back there too. So, I think with the berm, that would be okay. If we see that we need more, that's fine.
Oh, so there's a berm down there?
Yeah, we plan on doing a berm to kind of get the water directed. What we're gonna do is do a berm to get it to the old stone wall, and then it'll run down into the sediment ponds.
Okay, is that detailed somewhere or?
No, I don't think I put a height and width on it. But I suspect that it's gonna be, like just a 2-foot high berm, running in the area that I have shown on the map.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Massaracco?
No questions.
Commissioner Gingras?
Is there gonna be a separation between your boundary and the wetlands, markers and stuff like that?
Correct.
Okay, that's it. No questions.
Commissioner Hall?
No questions.
All right, thank you.
I have another one.
Okay.
Are
Mr.
the markers that Clark just mentioned, are they on the plan?
Yes, I believe they are. They're the squares.
Plans are kind of busy, so I'm having trouble reading through them.
What's that?
The plans are a little busy, so I'm having trouble
Yeah.
reading things.
No, they're on
They
there.
might clearly marked on the map.
Purple, I don't see markers.
Yeah, there are. They're a square with a triangle in them. There's about 7 or 8 of them.
So we
Lois, I
have no
had
problem.
it as a comment and I crossed it off, so they must be on the plans.
Okay,
And we're okay with putting up the markers. I mean, that's pretty common, so.
okay. Since the details for the berm are, thank you for bringing this up, Jim. Since the details are not on the berm, are not on the plan, can you verbalize what the details are gonna be?
Sure. The berm will be 2 feet high, 2 feet wide at the top, and a 3-to-1 side slope on either side.
Say that last part again, please?
3-to-1 side slopes on either side.
And these are permanent berms?
No, it would be temporary until we get the site, the site going. So, our intent there is to get, that's an open area where we don't have the stone wall. A berm is the best way to protect that till we get going on the site. And then once we get the site stabilized and pitched the right way, then we can actually do away with the berm. We'll basically, we're gonna fill over the berm.
And what is the composition? The berm of what?
Earth and berm.
So you're saying the berm's not gonna be there when you're done?
When we're done, it's not gonna be there. For that area. that's
So you're
where that
placing, you're
back
placing it
area is.
underneath the toe of the proposed fill slope.
Right, but I want it there until we get the fill there, until we get everything's pitches towards the wetlands. So I want a berm there to get it to the sediment areas, the detention areas right now. So we don't have any exposure to the wetlands.
How are you stabilizing that slope that's there?
We will seed it, the slope will be seeded, and it's a 3-to-1 slope.
Is there any other landscaping proposed?
They don't have a landscaping plan right at this point, but that will be submitted to, that's what they're working on for P&Z.
Well, perhaps we should see that too. That's actually a good thing for us to see since it is right along the wetlands. So I myself would like to see it before we approve or disapprove the plan. So that's usually part of what we do. So when is that planning on having it? Let me see if I can say that in English. When do you think that's going to end up in planning and zoning?
Well, once we hopefully clear this board, we were planning to go to P&Z.
Oh, so you're not in front of them yet?
No. We want to go through wetlands first.
Okay. I personally, I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but we usually do require a landscape plan before we pass a site plan on. So I would like to see those details and the berm details, as long as we're, if we're going to go that way, I'd like to see the berm details on the plan and the planting plan and the roof drains on the map. You can handle all of it at one time.
I agree. We should
I'm
see
gonna
all.
keep the public hearing open for another meeting.
I think that's prudent.
Lois, can you say that again? You wanted the berm, the planting plan, and what was the third thing?
The landscape plan, the berm details, and the roof drains that Scott had mentioned that weren't on the map. And yeah, I guess that the all slopes, anything that's going to be planted, or if it's going to be riprap, we should know that too. So if that could all be on the plan and well in advance of the meeting so that we can review it in person on paper.
Fair enough. Could I get a interpretation on the water quality basins on the Newtown side? I would ask the board, that's on a different town. And, that I wouldn't want to open that up to two masters, if you will. You can understand why we wouldn't want to do that.
I think we're only concerned with the town of Monroe.
Thank you.
And I think I would assume that these roof drains are going right into the catch basins.
Correct.
So that's easy. And then, yeah, so I guess it's the planting plan. And then, did someone say that construction details of the berm?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it.
So that information would need to be submitted to the land use office by January 6th in order for me to get it out to the commission so they can review before the meeting.
Fair enough.
Okay, great.
Donna, you want to read any exhibits?
Sure. Exhibit 1 was the inland wetland agent review comments dated October 15th. Exhibit 2 were the abutter receipts. Exhibit 3 was a map set 5-sheet plan titled R Stone Company 169 Enterprise Drive by Knock Engineering. The document was dated October 8th, revision date November 5th. Exhibit 4 was a response to town comments by Alan Shepard. Document was dated November 5th. Exhibit 5 was updated inland wetland agent comments, revision date November 12th. Exhibit 6 were drainage calculations by Alan Shepard. The document was dated December 8th. Exhibit 7 was a drainage area map by Knock Land Surveying. The document was dated December 7th. Exhibit 8 was a response to town engineer comments by Alan Shepard. Document was dated December 8th. And Exhibit 9 was updated town engineer comments dated December 9th.
And Donna, do we want to read the health comments that,
Yeah, I don't have those in the file, so if you have those, is it a long document?
no, he has 2 comments on it from the health department.
Okay, go ahead.
Plans received for proposed stone processing facility located at 169 Enterprise Drive in Monroe. 2 on-site buildings to be served by public water system and a central private sewage disposal system. 2, a formal commercial septic system plan review is in progress by the Monroe Health Department. Application for commercial plan review was received on 11/17/2020. The proposed commercial septic system serving 2 separate buildings on the same property is referred to as a central system and requires additional approval by the state of Connecticut Department of Public Health.
Thank you. That's it from you, Denise?
Yeah, that was health department, but yeah.
Okay. Is anybody in the, I'm sorry.
You want to poll the public?
Yeah, public comment. Anybody in the public want to speak in favor of this application? Anybody in the public like to speak in opposition to this application? Anybody in the public like to speak on this application in a general nature? Okay, we're gonna continue this hearing till the next meeting. Do you do a motion on that?
No.
No, okay, so we're all set. Thank you, Mr. Shepherd.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much.
Moving on to enforcement. Nothing, NOV discussions, nothing, remediation submissions, nothing. Or no, I'm sorry, we have one. IWR 2020-02, 224 Guinea Road remediation plan to remove fill and replant the wetland area.
Okay. Is there someone who?
Who's presenting this?
I am
All right, thank you.
Dave Bjorklund, and Mike Klein from Davidson Environmental are going to be doing the presentation.
Go ahead.
Are we ready?
We're ready, I think.
Hold on.
Oh, no, Don, are you doing something?
Yeah, let me make Dave presenter.
Okay.
Okay, Dave.
Okay, Donna, something. Donna, can you hear me?
I could hear you. Donna's
Okay,
mic is
you
off.
know, I'm having trouble connecting to my network. Donna, can you put up what we originally submitted? Yeah, something has gone wrong here. So. Yeah, this is not working. I'm having limited screen.
Dave, do you want me to see if I can get the plans up?
Yeah, if you could, Donna, because something, as soon as I clicked the presenter, things, it's having, I'm trying to connect to my network and I can't.
Okay. Oh,
Let me start with an introduction. This is a property at 224 Guinea Road, and it is a rear lot that was created back in the early 90s. It was a subdivision of which my firm did, and this rear lot, 224, was sold to the Ferreras, and this goes back to 03. Is the original violation, of which I was completely unaware of that it went back that far. Mike Klein, who was with me this evening, he and I became familiar with this piece of property and started to work on it on behalf of Joe Ferreira in 2015. But back when the original subdivision was done, a small band of wetlands was noted on this piece of property, which you can see on the screen. It's the gray area right in the middle of the screen. And this wetland flows, it's fed from, there's a pond to the south of that wetland on the adjacent piece of property. And that wetland, and when that pond gets high, this wetland area used to get hydrated by that overflow area. It's a little unusual as far as the wetland goes because you can see from the mapping that as it proceeded to the north, it all of a sudden stopped, but the flow of the water was from the south to the north. That's probably due to a change in the drainage characteristics of the soil. And immediately north of the property line and the property labeled as the town of Monroe, there's a very steep slope, a very severe drop off. it's natural, but at any rate, the wetland originally stopped right there. Mr. Ferreira, in the development of his lot, did an awful lot of filling, cutting, grading. There's barely any of this lot that hasn't been touched. But one of the areas that he did fill in was that wetland area that we see there. As far as reconnaissance goes and testing, what we did was we excavated 3 test holes in the area of that former wetland area. And what we found was that as on the north end of that wetland area, we get down to the original wetland soils at about 3 to 4 feet. And then as we proceed back in a southerly direction, test holes indicate one about the midway down the wetlands indicate about the same thing. As we get to the southerly part of the site near the pond and the property line, the fill jumps up to about, I think it's as deep. We didn't run into wetland soils till we got to about 48 to 50 inches. So what we've got is we've got a wetland area that has been filled. The contours in the area have been modified drastically so that the water can no longer flow out of that pond on the southern to the south of the southern property line. And the proposal here is to go in and to excavate under the supervision of Davison Environmental. We know what the width of the old wetland network is, and to go in and start at the southerly end of the site. Thank you. Go in at the southerly end of the site, and as I said, under supervision of somebody with an excavator, digging down until we find those old wetland soils. We know what the width is, and we can reproduce that in the field if need be with survey. We're going to go down and find those old former wetland soils. We're going to grade back on a side slope of 2 to 1 from that area, and then proceed in a southerly direction. And as I said, we're going to find the former wetland soils, expose them, slope up beyond that area. And the only way this can be done is by standing there in the field and watching the machine as it excavates. And so then we're going to proceed in a northerly direction. Mr. Ferreira built a pool, pool, small pond collection area at the very northern extremity of the former wetland area. That's going to be removed. And then we're going to reestablish the wetlands in that area, and then we're going to come back in and do some plantings. We don't anticipate this is going to be able to be done until we get out of the, definitely not going to do it now. This is going to be something that's going to take place, next April, May, when things dry out, and then planting will be resumed right after that. As far as the planting goes, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Klein of Davison Environmental, so he can go over what the proposed plantings are going to be to try to reestablish this wetland and in the area just beyond it.
Yeah, this is Michael Klein. I'm a biologist and a soil scientist. Do you all hear me okay? Yep, okay. If you could go back to the page 2. You can see here the proposed approximate grading in red, and then in the green clouded areas are the proposed tree and shrub plantings. Once the areas reach grade, this wetland was originally a rocky drainage swale, probably a little bit of an intermittent water course as you got a little further down gradient to the north. So there'll be stone placed in there, and then topsoil sifted into the cracks and crannies between the stones. If we do get a well-developed wetland topsoil layer still present throughout, then we can just install a stone into that topsoil. But this kind of a wetland typically is very stony and then has trees and shrubs and vegetation growing out from between the interstices between the stones. So we will seed it down with a wetland seed mix from New England Wetland Plants. Once we get outside the wetland area in the slope up to the undisturbed grade, that'll be seeded with a conservation and wildlife mix. And then you can see depicted on this plan a series of native shrub masses and a series of red maple trees. This would originally typically be vegetated with red maples and trees and shrubs. So we have proposed 103 trees and shrubs consisting of 5 different species. Red maple is the tree species we've selected. That's typical for wetlands in Connecticut. And then the shrubs include shadblow, chokeberry, winterberry, and arrowwood. These are all available from the conservation wetland planting trade. They would be most likely procured from New England Wetland Plants up in Amherst, Mass, a major wetland nursery in the area, and they would be installed in these approximate locations shown. The final locations would have to be established in the field in and around the stones and so forth. But this is the general area where they would be planted. The shrub masses would be planted about 5 feet on center with the native shrubs. They would continue to grow and expand over time to form a more continuous layer. But again, this kind of a wetland typically didn't have a very, very dense vegetative layer anyways. It was mostly stones and some herbaceous material, and then the red maple trees. So that planting would be installed under our direction, as Dave has mentioned. This is the kind of project that needs to be adjusted in the field since we're dealing with an unknown under the soil. We know there was a wetland originally there. We've got the test pits. We know the original wetland topsoil appears to be present, but the exact depth to which it's going to have to excavate will have to be determined by a soil scientist working with the excavator and indicating when he's reached the appropriate grade. And then that the trees and shrubs would be installed. They could be installed in probably June of next year, get established. There is a house there. If irrigation was needed, if it was particularly dry, that could be accomplished from the domestic supply at the house.
Thank you, Michael. This piece of property and this violation has a long history, and it had several starts and stops. The Ferrera family and the owners of the property are willing. They want to see this go forward now. It's been hanging around long enough. They want to get this work done so that they can sell the property. So I think we're finally at a good point in time for this piece of property and for this violation. Be glad to answer any questions that any of the commission members may have with regards to the work we proposed.
All right, I'll poll the commission at this time, starting with Commissioner Spence.
Let the other commissioners go first, please.
Okay. No, you're welcome. Commissioner Stewart.
Yeah, I may be missing it, but I don't think I have that drawing that you're showing.
No, I apologize. Working remotely isn't always the most coordinated effort, and we did not get these drawings over to town hall until Monday.
We're gonna have to continue this meeting then, because we don't, I don't have it either. I'm trying to figure this out.
Yeah, no, we had expected.
I'd recommend that we continue the public hearing.
This isn't a public hearing. This is just a remediation.
Oh, sorry. I guess I'm already sleeping. I'd recommend we invite them back for another lovely evening.
All right, we can do that.
After we get their comment.
I
After we
have
get
one question though.
If we have any questions, we can definitely ask them now.
I have a question though.
Go ahead, Commissioner Gingras.
Did he say that there was a self-made pond at the top of that map that we're seeing?
Yes, if you go back to
A
the,
pond or a pool or something?
it's a pool that has a liner in it, that has a natural stone wall that has been constructed around it.
So you're gonna be removing it then?
We're going to be removing it. It's been primarily, the water in it has been pumped into it from, I believe, an underground source. I'm not sure. It hasn't come from the wetland, either from the water table in the area. So no, that's going to be completely removed.
Okay, all right.
Any other
You
questions
stated-
from any other
You
commissioners?
stated, I'm sorry, you stated that you were gonna be sloping the sides after you exposed all the wetland soils at 2 to 1. What
Yeah.
was the original slope?
I could, we have the original subdivision grading plan. I could get that information to you. I can't, I can't do that right now.
Okay.
We'll get you that information.
Any other question? Commissioner Spence?
Let DJ go first and then I'll go after him.
All right, Commissioner Hall?
Okay. I did dig through my piles of commission maps and paperwork and find from the 11/18 meeting, I did find that map. And it makes sense what you're describing. But you say they are removing the pool, and anything that is feeding that water source would be removed also, like irrigation system or something?
Yes.
Okay. I think by looking at, I saw you had that original subdivision. I think that was the last slide here, the last map. Donna, can you go to that? That one, there we are. Okay, I think, but what you're saying, Mr. Bjorklund, is that the grading on that has changed with the owner's excavation and landscaping?
Oh, it's been changed drastically.
Okay,
For instance, there's kind of a knoll that is between the wetland and the garage. That is now flat. There is that's been removed. To the left or to the west of the wetland, those grades have been pushed further to the west and they're more severe. Actually, they got into an area of a rock cut. So they're the natural contours that were there when we did the original subdivision are no longer there on this piece of property.
okay. I have been to the property and it did look very flat through that area.
Oh, it's flat.
So you are working from south to north with your grading, is that what you said?
Yes,
Okay,
because that was the original flow of the water, and it came out of the pond collection area that is partially, very small portion is on this property, but the bulk of that open water is on the property to the south.
that's on this map. This is where it's just to the left of where it says 620.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, I think I understand that now. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Bjorklund, is the conservation easement line marked on any of those maps? They're not on any of the ones that I have in my hand.
Yeah, I believe that was a request of Denise, and on the maps that we submitted on Monday, that conservation easement is on there.
Okay, how much different from the grading on the conservation, let me back up. What was the contour situation from the edges of the conservation easement down to the wetland? How different was that compared to what you are proposing?
It's very different because of the mass grading that was done on the lot. When the lot was originally developed.
Okay. The reason I ask is that we have a policy of if the conservation easement is disturbed, we want the conservation easement, the entire conservation easement, returned as close as possible to its original form. And I don't see that happening with this plan.
That would be very difficult to accomplish, considering the grading and the construction that has gone on this piece of property.
We need something to talk about. When was the pipe installed from the pool to the edge of the driveway?
I don't have any specific information, but I would think that was prior to '03 when the initial violation was filed.
Okay.
Yeah, after the subdivision of this property, I personally in the firm had no experience with it until we got to the site in 15.
Okay. When I walked this site in 2006, when we first had a problem that I knew of, and when I was back there, I was on the southerly borderline. There was a huge pump, and I remember a concrete, like a manhole cover. Was all of that appliance stuff gone?
I have not witnessed it in my time since 15 till now. I'll go back and recheck the area to see if it's this was on the southerly property line.
Yes, right on the edge of the pond. He put it on his property, but as far into the pond as he could get it. I guess he was using it for irrigation. I'm not sure. There was some discussion back then because there had been a neighbor. I did not talk to this neighbor, but one of our staff members did, and the neighbor said that they believed that it was a vernal pool, not just a pond. I don't know that that's true. That was just an observation on their part, but that was where this pump had been installed. So I just wanted to make sure that was all gone.
Okay. We will check on that. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but I'll go take a look.
Okay, good. Are you planning on using the pipe to continue overflow drainage to the north?
Yes, just because now there's a driveway in between, and we'll have to protect the driveway. But the first goal here is to restore the wetland as close as we can, so that we can get that area rehydrated and hopefully support the planting that's proposed.
Okay, I just want to let you know I'm not too happy about the 2-to-1 slopes. That doesn't seem like much of an upland for me, and I would like. I mean, I'm understanding that there was so much disturbance that it's probably not possible to get it back to its original form, but I would like to see it get as close as we could. And I don't believe that unless there's some mapping that can show us that there were 2-to-1 slopes there originally, I would like to see a more gradual sloping away from the wetlands.
Okay, we'll present. We'll try to come as close as we can to the original. But as you've seen the site, this site has been, talk about mass earthwork. It happened here.
Yeah.
Also, we need wetland markers to be installed. They should be on the plan. And I realize that a lot of the placement has to be in the field, but we really need some kind of a landscape plan.
We have a landscape plan.
Okay, I don't have a landscape plan.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
That plan. Okay,
we'll incorporate all that information, the slopes and the conservation easement, and we'll get that back to you in time for your January meeting.
Yeah,
awesome.
just parenthetically, a quick look at the original contours versus the proposed contours shows that the slopes were probably steeper than what we will end up with here. There was, as Dave mentioned, there was a large knoll, which I suspect was probably a rock core that was there, and that's been excavated and removed. The slopes are now flat in that area, but looking at the old topo, and with the proposed topo overlaid on it, and it's not substantially steeper. In fact, in some places, it's flatter than what the original topo was.
Okay, I see what you mean. I'm looking
Could you
at it.
please say your name for the record? It wasn't clear who was
Oh,
just speaking.
I'm sorry. It's Michael Klein, soil
Thank you.
scientist and biologist from Davison Environmental.
Hey, any other questions from other commissioners? Commissioner Hall.
I have one request. For that next meeting, if you could give us a rough timeline for the remediation from the time you start the process with the backhoe until completion. Give us an idea how long that might take.
Okay, we can provide that.
Thank you.
So we're gonna continue this hearing till next meeting.
Yes, I believe.
All right, we're all set. Dave, you're all done presenting for now?
Yep.
All right, we got, so Commissioner Hall, you said you did a site walk here?
It wasn't an official site walk for the commission, no. There was an estate sale, and it was open to the public.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. All right. Moving along to application hearing determination. IWC 2020-10, 472 Pepper Street, parking expansion, construction of drainage system. Who's presenting here?
I move that we bring this to public hearing and that there's a great deal of upland review area that is being changed, and it may be in the public interest.
We have a motion from Commissioner Spence to move this to a public hearing. You have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Gingrich. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Next is the deliberation on completed hearings. Complete items.
Nope, you
agenda.
skipped over something.
I did?
Yep. Other.
Oh,
E.
10 Victoria Drive. Sorry, because I.
Well,
got
there's
it.
also 154, 164 Enterprise Drive. That's on there too.
Did we get it? We probably got a new agenda, right?
That was on the original agenda.
Right.
Are you looking under E?
Yeah. All I had is 1585 Monroe Turnpike, the referral we did
Really?
at the beginning.
On the
everybody else?
public, I thought I sent you guys the new one via email, but yeah, under other, it was I-0706 154 164 Enterprise Drive, and there's a modification. I guess Denise, you want to discuss this?
Yes, this is an existing approved plan, and we have a drawing I could have Donna bring up if you want. It's a modification to the original site plan. There's an area along the back towards the wetland where we had proposed gravel. With the new site plan, they want to take out 1,300 square feet of gravel, and it's going to be pavement to accommodate a oh my God, a truck dock. So the question is, I need guidance as to how do we want to handle this approval? Do we want to do it as a application for a permit modification or what?
Which property is this again?
This is 164 Enterprise Drive. We just, 154, we just, has already been built. It's a 2-lot. There we go. So everything in red is what was approved. What's in black is the new building, and you could see how they notched out in the middle of the building. And if you
Yeah.
look directly below it, right where my cursor is, that's the area that they're going to get rid of the gravel and put bituminous to accommodate the loading docks.
This is when was this approved?
2007.
Okay. And they've properly accounted for all the different watershed that's been already through engineering.
This was already approved, so this has not gone to anybody yet with the new site plan. They're talking to us first because there is a change to it that affects the wetlands because it's in the 100-foot upland review. So nothing's been submitted yet.
Denise, would you please point out
Right.
where the change is going to be again? I didn't see it.
Okay, can you see my mouse?
Yes, I can now.
Okay, that's the area that was gravel will now be bituminous. And that's to accommodate this cutout in the building.
Okay, about how many square feet is that?
1,300.
Does that dramatically change the drainage?
No, because this was all gravel before, and we know lots of time gravel is treated almost as asphalt when they do the drainage calcs in terms of the coefficients. And I mean, Scott would be reviewing it anyway as a town engineer when the plans were submitted. Because it's going to still have to go into planning and zoning.
Now, what's the red stuff on the side? That was permitted, or that was not
permitted? That was fueling station, a gas pump. That may be removed. That may end up going, but right now we left what was proposed in, just so you could see the difference between proposed and the existing.
Denise, this was approved in 07
Correct.
without any extensions?
Well,
It was approved in 2017.
I'm sorry?
It's the original approval was in 2007. It's been a phase thing. I'm going by the original
Who is
number that I have on
so
the agenda.
So the last wetlands approval was what date? What year?
Apparently it was modified in 2017.
Okay, so it hasn't expired.
No, it hasn't expired.
Okay, so when you said 2007, I was thinking it's been 13 years. Okay.
Sorry. The original was under 2007, so.
Denise, do you feel comfortable handling it as an agent approval?
I can do it as an agent approval. I didn't know, there's been other times that we've done things as a permit modification, so that's why I wanted guidance from the commission.
Do they have their CO?
They have it for the building over here, but nothing here. Because this hasn't been done yet.
Right, well, I mean, a permit modification usually expires with the CO, does it not? I mean, a permit usually expires with the CO. That means you've signed off on it, you're done.
Correct.
So
But I
it's
guess
not a permit modification anymore. It's either a new modification, it's either a new plan, or that we can handle via agent approval or with the actual application.
when we had 17 Enterprise Drive and they came back where they had to pave the area and the dumpster moved, we did it as a permit modification.
That's true. That's true.
So
But-
that's the only reason I'm asking these questions. You know, I want guidance from the commission.
Mhm. Well, I'm okay with the
Okay.
permit, with the agent approval if you are.
Well, our options are agent approval, what do you, or, what's the other?
Permit
Permit
modification.
modification,
I'm good with an agent approval.
amendment.
All right. Well, someone make a motion?
So moved, we send this to agent approval?
Second,
Motion from Commissioner Spence to make this an agent approval, second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. All right,
I'm sorry,
Okay.
who was the second?
Commissioner Gingras, I believe.
No, I think it was Jim, wasn't it?
No, I'm sorry. Who was it?
I thought it was Jim.
Mr. Stewart here.
Commissioner Stewart.
I want credit.
Wants his credit.
Okay, last one. 10 Victoria Drive.
Okay.
So 10 Victoria Drive, we have a site plan. Right now, currently, we've been talking to an applicant, and this is the old Walmart site, if everyone's familiar with it. The limit of work is less area than what had originally been approved when they did the Walmart area. So the subdivision and the wetlands permits are still valid. So they have the right to take care of the work there. The work on the site, they're not doing any work within the upland review area. But if everyone remembers that site, they had done a lot of clear cutting beyond the limits. So one of the conditions of approval, I believe, with Walmart was remediation. So they have a remediation plan that they sent. Most of it is outside of, it's outside the upland review. How do we want to handle that? Just, do you want to have them come in with a little bit of area that's the remediation, or can it be handled just all through P&Z? Okay, so this is a site plan. We have the 100-foot offset and then the 150 offset because of the Pequannock River. The areas in yellow are the areas that they plan on doing remediation. You can see that this whole area is outside of the 100-foot regulated area. The area through here, there's a couple little pieces that come into play within the upland review area, but majority of it is all outside of the areas. But they wanna do remediation because that was, part of the agreement at one point with Walmart. So the new owner is trying to do the right thing.
Could they do mitigation in outside of the review area instead of going into the review area and then it kind of gets out of our hands?
Hold on. I have an aerial. If you see the aerial, you'll see how a lot of this was cleared beyond, which is why they wanted to do some of the remediation. But like I said, just a little piece of, yeah, if you go into that one, Donna.
It might not like both of these being open.
And it should be the last sheet. Okay, so as you could see, this is the area of all that was clear cut. And that's why they want to do remediation, even though it's, some of it, majority of it was outside of the 100-foot, but there is a little bit that's within it. I mean, if you want them to stay outside of the 100-foot solely and not, worry about some of those little areas.
Yeah, well, why can't they just be, like I said, mitigate it to one of the areas? First of all, I'm having a hard time interpreting what you put up here on the on the screen here.
This is
For
the
one.
current, this is an aerial as of, I can't even read, April of this year. This is the property that we're looking at, right through here.
Yeah, I don't see your cursor moving. So
Oh, you
that's
don't see
why.
my cursor moving?
I don't. I don't know if I. Oh, there I see a little black arrow.
Oh, yeah, it's real little.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Can you see it now?
Moving? I don't see
Yeah.
it moving.
Well, I'm gonna recommend that I'm gonna make a motion that we go to an agent approval of the remediation.
We got a motion from Commissioner Stewart. I have a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gingrich. All in favor?
We have discussion first.
Oh, yes, any discussion? Sorry.
Actually, I don't have any problem with them being in the 100-foot review because that's the purpose of mitigation, is that's our regulated area. So if they want to make it better, that's actually better. So that would be I mean, I don't have any problem with the agent approval thing, but I don't have any problem with them going into the 100-foot because it will actually improve it over its present condition.
Yeah, I think they should. They should go in that and do that area because when they have future development, it's less they'll have to deal with.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're fine with them doing the remediation, but they don't have to go in front of you. We could handle it as an agent approval.
Yes.
Okay.
So again, the motion is from Commissioner Stewart to make this agent approval and seconded by Commissioner Gingrich. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, deliberation session. Deliberation on complete hearings. Complete items agenda is determined by the commission. I think we have just one, right? Or is it two? We have just one, IWC 2020-05, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anybody have anything they want to discuss?
I just want to remind you that you would normally you would discuss conditions, and then request a draft be made. And then we would give it to you for review and voting on at the next meeting. It's been a while. I know we've been pushing things through, but that is the normal procedure.
All right, thank you for the reminder. Someone like to make a motion? Or,
I'll make a motion that we approve this application with conditions to be discussed.
okay, a motion to approve the application with
Wait,
motion.
Louis, you want to get an approval or you want to have them draft an approval?
I'm sorry, yes, I would like to see our staff draft a positive approval with conditions that we're about to discuss.
Okay, a motion from Commissioner Spence. We have second by Commissioner Hall to draft the motion to approve the conditions. All right, Commissioner Spence, what are your conditions?
The notes that I took were that they wanted the ENS controls around Old Main Street and the Main Street outlet. That this was Jim, so correct me if I'm incorrect, Jim. And there was something about contract limits to include that work, and I don't really know what that meant. I just wrote it down.
Yeah, right now the contract limits just go around the property. I remember Jim making the comment to go down and include the cleaning of that pipe. That's on 25, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the only other ones I had were any remaining comments from Denise and Scott. And the bond estimate, I guess.
You want to review those conditions so we could make sure we got it clear?
Second.
Yep, hold on.
Look, we already have the motion. Do we need a second or do we not get one?
So,
We did. We did.
okay, the first motion only dealt with, technically,
with having the staff draft something. I think that the motion should be stated clearly if it's a motion to approve with what the conditions are. And then you can go from there. It can be seconded and discussed and voted on.
Okay, but this is only for a draft.
Yes.
So the conditions that I,
Make a motion with all the conditions in it, or can I just say with the aforementioned conditions?
You
Let's
can-
just
you
make
can
sure,
say with-
let's make sure that we got it written down first. Correct.
Right, right. Just make clear what you're looking for staff to do.
Okay, I guess before we
Thank you,
go
Barbara.
there then, Denise, what comments of yours are still open that need to be put on as conditions? And if you would look at Scott's also and see if there's any that stick out to you.
let's see. One comment I had was that the silt fence is still not shown on the demolition plan. And then I said that any S&E controls should be installed before any work commences, including demolition, especially since the site grades towards the roadway. I also mentioned that there's no inverts on any of the utility structures. That's kind of outside of our purview in one respect, but there is one catch basin that's in the upland review area. And I'm just saying that the inverts on structures really should be on the plan and not have someone referring to a report.
And if you'd like, I can go over what Scott's comments are.
Yeah, I've got Scott's too, but go ahead, Donna.
No, it's just fine. If you have it, go ahead. Just the remaining ones, because there was only.
The only two he had was the correction for catch basin 10 to gallery to 2.64 CFS is pending. Revised report is noted. And then he had response in the 12/3/20 letter as noted. However, the reference revised plans have not been received.
And number 4 there, it said an approval should be contingent on DOT approval of the,
Yes.
of the
approval
proposed drainage
on
system
DOT
for the work
approval.
within the state ROW.
Do we need to state all those, or are you okay with, because I didn't get them all writing them down, so
So
are you okay with adding them to the draft?
So we've got the 3 from Scott, we have 2 from me, we have the bond, we have sediment and erosion to be installed at the outlet at Route 25, and also the contract limit to be modified to include the outlet. That's what was stated.
Okay, so as long as you have that, then I, in my motion to include
Request.
the aforementioned conditions, with plus the standard conditions.
All right. Thank you. And that was seconded still. We got two people raised their hand at the same exact time. Who seconded it the first time? Commissioner Hall. So seconded by Commissioner Hall. All in favor to move this to
Draft approval.
draft an approval for this application? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we will have that ready for the next meeting. We'll send it to you for review prior to the meeting so that you can review it.
Thank you. Okay, now bond release and reduction reports. Well, I 04-03 39 Richard Drive, bond release request.
Denise?
I don't have the letter in front of me, unfortunately, but I
Well, you
recommend to the commission to release the $3,000 bond.
All conditions were met?
Pardon?
Were all conditions met?
Yes.
I make a motion that we release the bond.
Got a motion from Commissioner Gingrich. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Spence to release the bond. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Time extension, none. Agent of, IWC agent activity reports, agent approvals. Do you have any?
Nothing new. Not right now.
Permitted use as of right, IPU 2018-01, Department of Public Works, road repair, replacement, or general maintenance.
And then we have IPU 2020-20, 94 Century Hill Road. It's dead tree removal from storm damage.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you. Enforcement deliberations, deliberation not
Don't have
completed, nothing, right? The whole. Nothing here. General discussion, minutes of October 28th, 2020. Yeah.
You're muted, Lois.
Didn't we approve them already?
No, that's the one that you said you didn't have, and then and I resent them out because we did go through those.
So we did redraft them then, right? Okay, then I move to approve as drafted.
A motion to approve the minutes as drafted by Commissioner Spence. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hall. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. The minutes are accepted.
Those off my table.
Okay. Regulation Amendment Committee. No.
I think we need to get something started there. There should be a committee meeting because we do definitely have some regulations that need amending, adding, subtracting, that kind of thing. So I'm still willing to remain on the commission, but I mean on the committee. It was Jeff that was with me, but he's no longer on the commission. So we need somebody else. And usually they prefer somebody of the opposing party. So no, I don't like to say opposing, the other party. So
That's, okay.
but
well,
if we don't have anybody that volunteers, well, we can take anybody.
we'll put what we'll do is I think the first meeting of the new year we'll have to do some voting. I think some things, maybe assign some new positions and whatnot. We can include that, and then also maybe throw out some regulation amendments that we've all been thinking about.
Okay, well, can I suggest then if anybody does have any suggestions for regulation changes, to send them to Donna so that they can be kind of compiled and looked at, and we can start thinking about it.
I had two of them, but I forgot what they are. Doesn't help us. Oh, I remember what one of them is. One of them was the. Oh, we'll wait till the first. I gotta make sure I got my thoughts clear. Public Outreach Committee. Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay. Let's go to. Now, go back to IWC 2020-03R. And tonight we are going to start with a presentation from Derek, forgot his last name. Derek Jones, right? Is that correct? Is he here? Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. And then we'll have any committee public questions of commission and public questions of Derek. Then Kevin Soley from Soley Engineering will answer the commission's previous questions. And then the commissioners can ask any additional questions they have of the applicant. And then all those answers, any answers from tonight will have to be presented on December 16th. This meeting, special meeting for this application.
We did not agree on a final special meeting.
We didn't?
We talked about it briefly, but we never actually came up with a finalized plan as to whether or not we were doing it.
Mr. Chairman, it's Russ Lorenzo. from Arcadis, consultant for the commission.
Go ahead,
Can I
Russ.
speak?
Please.
Mr. Jones is going to give a presentation, but there was a lot of new material submitted on Friday, and I want to summarize that for the commission. Mr. Sully has presented last meeting everything they were doing, and they made some changes. One major change is they are agreeing to a bedrock well to feed vernal pool 3. Mr. Jones's report, just to get it to the chase, shows that they did a lot more sampling, and they didn't really find any contamination. Tetrahydrofuran was detected at low levels, but those levels are indicative of background conditions, and I agree with Mr. Jones on his assessment of that. Mr. Kenny submitted a report that was in response to the intervener's consultant, and I agree with everything that Mr. Kenny said, other than they don't need to present a water budget. And let me explain that. Water budget is how much water went into that vernal pool during normal times, not during drought times, when there was a normal watershed, when the watershed was at double of what it is right now. During normal rainfalls, how much water went into that vernal pool? So they said they don't need to present a water budget, and the commission should consider that. So I wanted to bring that up, and I wanted to answer a question for you, Keith, that you had during a call with myself and Barbara about process. And one thing you brought up, which I looked into, was whether the commission could have a subcommittee do deliberations. And there's a recent court ruling, actually. It's on the DEP website from 2018, where a town had a subcommittee. Somebody appealed that, and they lost. So you can have a subcommittee. So you go through this public hearing, and if the commission wants a subcommittee to meet and deliberate, you could do that, or you could do that as a commission. So I wanted to bring that up. I wanted to bring on the record that I've reviewed all the new material. I've reviewed the plan from Mr. Sully to rehydrate the wetlands. It's changed a little, and all that. So all I'm asking the intervener and all the experts is try to be as quick as I am. Everything you've done is in the record. It's on the record. Just get to the bottom line for the commission, please. Commission has been sitting here for 2 hours, 2.5 hours now. After 2 hours, we tend to fade, and I don't want the commission to fade. So I just wanted to make these statements. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ.
Yep.
And, Chairman, if I could just address Commissioner Spence's comment before everybody starts. I agree with what Mr. Dorenzo said. I think the presentation should be concise. We can get questions out. I do think, however, it is important to have one more special meeting scheduled so that everything can be wrapped up. If there are any questions, they can be answered. There's time because, again, things have been submitted without enough time for everybody to review. So we want to make sure that there are no submissions after this Friday, nothing new. And then we have one more special meeting to wrap things up so that the public hearing can be closed before the holidays. So that's the reason for doing it that way.
Okay. Do all the commissioners okay with have a problem with another special meeting on December 16th?
So let's understand, that's a special meeting. After that, the public hearing is closed and then we begin deliberations?
Yes,
Is that
it will be
what I
closed.
understand?
Yes, that'll be the deadline. That'll be the closing of the hearing, public hearing.
And how long will we have to
Excuse me, Mr.
deliberate?
Chairman.
Hold on, Kevin, just let me get the question out from Commissioner Stewart.
How
Commissioner
long
Stewart,
after that do we have to deliberate?
that's
We
Barbara.
will have, I believe there would be with the, we have to check on the exact dates, but I believe that it would be with the 35 days and then additional 15 days. My recommendation would be though, and I see Attorney Finn nodding his head. Is that, do I have the right, did I calculate that right? So 50
I
days.
think that's pretty close, Barbara. We should double check, but that's
Okay,
pretty close.
so I believe it's 50
Okay.
days from the 16th. What I would recommend is that you schedule a special meeting at least I imagine it's going to take at least 2 meetings to deliberate on this matter because, again, you would want to do what you did earlier tonight. You would want to deliberate, discuss. This has been going on for a long time. There's a lot of material. And then direct staff to draft a motion. So I would recommend having a special meeting in January for your first set of deliberations, and then perhaps you can finish them at a regular meeting. But again, you don't want to be in a position where you're starting to deliberate at 9 o'clock on this application.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, you had something to say? State your name.
Yeah, I was just
State your
sure. I
name.
was sorry, Kevin Soley. For the record, I just was going to ask the commission if it was possible to discuss the date of that special meeting. I happen to have a conflict next Wednesday on the 16th for another controversial hearing where it's also the end of a public hearing. So if there's any way to schedule your special meeting on a night other than next Wednesday, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Well, we only have access on certain days. Donna, any thoughts on that?
I'm looking at my calendar right now. Yeah, see, and the problem, and then the week after that is Christmas.
The other option is possibly maybe starting earlier at 5 or 6 rather than 7.
6 o'clock would probably maybe work for everybody, and then you got an hour, Kevin?
Yeah, I have another hearing later. I might be able to see if I could adjust that agenda, but it's just in another town, and it's another hearing like this.
Yeah, because I don't think that there's another, I mean, P&Z might be on Thursday on the 17th. So I don't think we could do a Thursday.
It is definitely.
They are on the
What?
17th.
Yeah, so Kevin,
Yeah,
if you have,
actually, I do not have another day next week. I have meetings every single night next week. So if the commissioners would be able to start early, perhaps that would be a way to accommodate everybody.
let's ask if everybody can start at 6 o'clock next Wednesday.
No,
Thumbs up, no? Commissioner Gingras is a no. Commissioner Massaraco? Oh, you're checking? And Commissioner Spence?
I'm not happy about the whole thing anyway. I would make one request and almost a demand that we get absolutely no new material on Friday or any day after it. We can't continually get new
Not
material
gonna,
at the
we're gonna
last
reject,
minute.
we will not accept anything after this Friday.
That it's just not fair. I mean,
You know, Lois, this is Russ from Arcadis.
Sorry,
It's
I'm
not
being
fair, but it's the law. They have the right. It's It's hard on commissions. I get it.
No, I would like to speak to that. Under the regulations, they do not, if you continue to submit, there's a difference between submitting material that is in further support of the plan that exists. But if there's going to be something significantly new, under the commission's regulations, they can deny an application on that basis because time has run out and they don't have enough time to review. And obviously, that's what we're running up against here. So I agree, it's only fair at this point and appropriate with the time that's left that there certainly not be any significant revisions to the plan because there just isn't going to be time to review that. And under the, I believe under your regulations, everything is always supposed to be in 5 days ahead of time anyway. So this commission, I think, has bent over backwards, accepting materials at the last minute and trying very hard to accommodate everybody here, the applicant and the intervener. And I think at this point, it is perfectly reasonable to say that Friday is a firm deadline.
But it's got to be before we close because we close early on Fridays and I have to be able to get that out in the mail.
Okay, so what time, let's make it clear on the record, what time any new materials would have to be submitted by on Friday to be accepted by the commission?
Really, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock in the morning.
You know, I'll just say, you know, on behalf of the applicant, I will agree with Attorney Schellenberger and again, Kevin Soley for the record. And I really do appreciate the commission's, you know, graciousness in receiving this material and going through this application at the, you know, exhaustive way as you have. And the materials that we provided last Friday were all in response to the commission's questions from last Wednesday night. And obviously now that we're having special meetings almost every week, it's difficult for us to kind of churn this stuff out and get it to you in a very, very timely manner, but we certainly did our best. And I'll say this, I think we've done a good job of responding to everybody's comments and concerns. So I don't expect to submit any new information for this application. And I look forward to that being the case.
Okay. I think we're good.
I also want to point out, Mr. Romano, that the applicant does have the last opportunity to submit materials and to address the commission. So, and I also think that some of the materials that have been submitted recently were asked for at the last hearing, and it's been a very short turnaround. So we're doing the best we can, but I understand the commission's frustration, and we'll do the best we can, but I don't anticipate a lot more written information being submitted anyway, unless something comes out tonight, which I don't think it should.
Okay, as far as back to next Wednesday night, we only have one commissioner that can't be there at 6, but that's Commissioner Gingras. Commissioner Gingras, would you be able to join us by 7? Like if we started or
probably by
I don't know how that works.
7 by the time I get home from work. I get out of work at 6.
Okay, so I don't think that should be a problem to have him come in a little bit later. Is that an issue, Barbara?
No, he can listen, he can watch the video and listen to what went on like he did last time when he had to leave early.
Of course, okay. Also, just to wrap that whole thing up, Kevin, you'll have somebody to fill in for you from your firm if we continue farther after you have to leave for your other meeting.
I could, certainly no one who's been as intimately involved as I have. But if we could, you know, I think if the commission could start a little bit early and have Clark join a little bit later, I think we should be able to hopefully surmise everything, you know, and be done in short order.
Okay. All right, so then, that being said, I think we're all in agreement that we're gonna have the meeting next Wednesday. Is that a thumbs up, everybody?
At 6 p.m.
Starting at 6 p.m.
Okay.
All right,
The only other thing I want to mention, just so that we don't forget before we start any presentation, is that we are going to need an additional extension from the applicant to go to December 16th to finish the public hearing.
If I could address that, Mr. Chairman Romano, just so to get it on the record, the applicant consents to an extension to December 16th on the record tonight, and I will follow that up with a confirming email. Thank you.
please just state your name though for the record with that statement.
Yes, thanks for reminding that. That's Attorney Finn on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you. All right, so let's just get on with it. So Derek, you are in charge. It's your show.
Okay. Derek Jones with WSP in Shelton, Connecticut. I'm a licensed environmental professional. I just wanted to make a quick clarification from last meeting. The intervener's consultant was talking about clean fill being solid waste, and I just wanted to express my disagreement with that interpretation. Although the solid waste regulations do mention certain items that are in clean fill, they also discuss clean fill as being excluded from regulation. For example, bulky waste is landfill debris and waste resulting directly from demolition activities other than clean fill. So basically, my contention is that clean fill is not a solid waste, and this is consistent with DEP documentation. Diane Duva, former assistant director of the DEP, has a presentation on the DEP webpage that clearly designates, makes a distinction between clean fill and solid waste. For items like brick, ceramics, concrete, they can be treated as solid waste or as clean fill, not as both. So basically, as Russ had indicated, we did a significant amount of more investigation. We had initially done the 6 hand sampling locations, then 10 additional soil borings completed to 8 to 43 feet, 9 test pits, 31 soil samples were collected, surface water sample and 2 groundwater samples from wells. And basically, as Russ had indicated, we basically demonstrate that the material does meet the definition of clean fill. We don't find any impacts to groundwater from these materials having been placed there. We don't foresee any impacts to the wetlands based on the groundwater readings that we recorded. So trying to keep it brief. That's my quick presentation.
All right, thank you. That was really quick. The best we've heard so far. Do any of the commissioners have I'll go through questions for Mr. Jones, starting with Commissioner Spence. No, sorry, last. Commissioner Stewart.
Yeah, do you have any evidence or experience with other projects similar to this that have been successful?
So I've characterized a number of stockpiles of materials for the DOT projects for reuse at sites, but I haven't been involved with a filling project quite like this one.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Commissioner Gingras.
No questions.
Commissioner Massaraco.
No questions.
Commissioner Hall.
No questions.
Commissioner Spence.
No questions.
No questions. Thank you. Okay, now we'll move to, oh, anybody in the public like to ask a question or make a comment about this presentation by Derek Jones? Okay, now we can move on. Does the intervener have any
Excuse me.
questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Does the intervener have any questions of Derek Jones?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I don't believe that we have any questions at this juncture.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
You're welcome. Barbara, were you?
No, I'm sorry, Keith. I didn't know that you were going to ask the intervener.
I didn't know I was either until like a second before that.
I just wanted to make sure.
All right, thank you. All right. So now I guess we move it over to the applicant to answer the questions from last meeting.
Chairman Romano, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Stephen for the applicant.
Yes.
I just want to remind Mr. Chairman that Mr. Logan, I guess, might have had some questions for Mr. Kenny last week, but Mr. Logan wasn't in attendance. And I believe one of the items that was going to be addressed today was to give Mr. Logan an opportunity to ask questions on behalf of the intervener. So I just wanted to make sure that's also on your list of items to be addressed.
Okay. I'll do that now then. Get that over with. Mr. Logan, you're here?
I am here. Can you folks hear me?
Yes, we can. We can't see you, but oh, there you are.
I don't have any specific questions in here. I'm still taking things in. I might or might not submit some questions by Friday, by early morning, but I can't think of anything right now that pops out. It's mostly comments based on what I saw in Mr. Kenny's report.
All right. Thank you.
Just for the record, Mr. Chairman, again, Attorney Finn, I would object to any questions we presented last week. The questions were supposed to be asked last week. We gave a full additional week, and I think in fairness to the applicant and to the commission, any questions should be posed tonight. Otherwise, I think that ends it.
Okay, I do have one question then.
Okay.
Wait a second, if I may.
Hold on, wait a second. Wait, everybody stop. Okay, everybody's speaking, but I'm realizing we're not recording names on the record here. So let's, Mr. Green, go ahead, state your name and.
Just for the record, we will submit questions.
Your name.
Joel
Your name.
Green.
Thank you.
Joel Green, representing the intervener. We will submit, if there are any questions, if Mr. Logan has any questions, we will submit them before Friday morning, probably tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And Mr. Logan, you said you had a question right now?
Well, I can ask one question now.
State your name for the record, though, please.
George Logan, Green Ecological Services for the intervener. And I think this might be a telling question. So can the applicant's team point out to possibly a successful restoration of wetland hydrology for a wetland in a similar landscape with similar wetland ecology and superficial geology? Honestly, I looked and I haven't found one. And so this is something that this seems like it's a novel idea to do this for restoring a hydrology to a wetland. And so I'm asking whether the applicant has come across any studies, similar kind of geology and ecology that have been actually successful, or maybe even not successful. That would be quite informative. That's my question at this point.
All right, thank you. Now it's back to the applicant. Kevin, you could address that question now, or you could go ahead and answer the commission's questions from last week and then address that when you need to. It's all you.
Sure, I'll just offer anecdotally. I have never been involved in a project that's similar in scope and scale and size to this one. So I can't say that I've seen a similar type project successful or unsuccessful, nor have I heard or read about any projects similar in Connecticut or any of the other several states throughout the Northeast that I work in. So, Mr. Kenny, Bill, do you want to offer some?
Right. At my fingertips, I don't have examples of something very, very similar to this, except to say that manipulation of the landscape is done on a regular basis with land development projects, and the control and direction of water flow is commonly done both on development projects, and then you think about other mining projects where they restore the landscape, not entirely, but they restore drainage patterns and flow directions and flow volumes. So I think it's something that is regularly done in the landscape and throughout the world.
And actually, as we think about this more, and Bill spoke, I will actually point to a project this commission recently approved back in 2015 at 5 Victoria Drive, which is actually just adjacent to the site that you just talked about at 10 Victoria Drive. That was a project where wetlands were impacted by a agricultural operation, and we designed a wetland mitigation and enhancement. And I would actually I'll put up some pictures real quick that actually show after 2 years how some of those mitigated areas are actually thriving and doing very, very well. This was a man-made replicated turtle pond that was constructed, and it actually is doing very well, exactly as designed and intended and approved by this commission. So I would say that this is something that can be replicated. And, again, my quick response before was I haven't been involved in projects of this size and scale, but I have been involved in projects much smaller, and I have seen them be successful and create established, vibrant wetland areas and remediation areas that do serve the function as intended from a design standpoint. So.
It's it's Arnold Karp. I'd like to address that to the commission. If somebody would like to take a look at the Mill River corridor in Stamford, Connecticut, the Corps of Army Engineers took what was a dammed river from the 1800s. We took down the dam and rebuilt basically all the wetlands along both sides of the river for about 8/10 of a mile. I can try to get pictures to the commission tomorrow. And that was something that I'm the co-chairman of, so that I'm rather familiar with it. So yes, given time, money, and effort, it is possible.
All right, thank you. All right, Kevin, you just continue on. It's your show.
Thank you. So we submitted, we did have a discussion at the last hearing. Again, Kevin Soley, for the record, I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut with Soley Engineering. Office is located right here in Monroe at 501 Main Street. So we submitted some revised information on Friday in response to our discussion last Wednesday and some of the other commissioner comments and questions. I'm just going to run through those really quickly because I think we actually be able to address a lot of them. And Russ gave a very succinct and precise response before. So we revised the overall site plan to change the curb to Cape Cod curbing through here, as it was a comment from Lois, and actually the balance of Cambridge Drive, which was being constructed as part of the Section 4 re-subdivision, is also Cape Cod curbing, so we've continued that through here. On a number of sheets, we've revised some information regarding the proposed impervious liner and the depth of that liner. Through conversations with Bill Kenny, we've actually revised so that the depth of material above the liner within the area of the vernal pool envelope and our extensive upland enhancement plantings, we've revised that to only provide a 3-foot section of natural material above that liner to the surface in the area of all that vegetation. The balance of the area that is going to be subject to that liner would still be 6 feet. We'd still say that would be, it's appropriate to have that area filled with clean fill in accordance with DEEP's definition. But the area within the envelope and within our extensive plantings, we've reduced that depth above the liner to only 3 feet. And we're also specifying that that be filled only with natural material in that area. We've also made some revisions regarding the proposed rehydration plan, as Mr. Dorenzo outlined per some of the discussions at the last hearing. We've designed our various phased soil erosion sediment control plans to provide for that dewatering, or excuse me, to provide for that rehydration to take place from an existing bedrock well located behind the existing scale house here. We're proposing a PVC pipe so water can be pumped from there up along here, and actually proposing to rehydrate that wetland from a single point on the southern end, which was also discussed at the last hearing. So we're proposing to have that. Let me go back one slide here. So we would be sourcing that dewatering to come from an existing well here to be pumped under pressure along the perimeter of the site, and then to be discharged through a diffuser box and a level spreader along the southern end of wetland 2 in the vernal pool here to provide for that rehydration. There was some discussion regarding a water budget. When you look at the definition of a water budget, it includes a lot of different components, looking at modeling the body of water, the outlet, the infiltration, things like that. We don't think a formal water budget in that sense would be appropriate. However, what we have done is we have evaluated average annual rainfall going back from 2000 to 2019, and we've determined on during the peak vernal pool months, essentially from November through April, through the end of April, we've determined that what the average flow rate to that wetland would have been in former conditions, approximately 2,700 gallons per day. In the current conditions with the reduced watershed, it's only getting about 600 gallons per day. So we can essentially regulate the dewatering, we can regulate the rehydration from this well to match that deficit of what that system is currently receiving versus what it was previously receiving. And that's actually something we can design almost as if it's like an irrigation system, to have that pump operate at the correct duration. We can also set it to run, after storm events, so it can mimic that same type of natural precipitation that it would have received if the watershed had been reduced the way that it has been. So we do think that, that is a change that we've proposed, and it's something that we're providing for the commission's consideration, because we think that's going to better replicate what was there previously. So while we're going to be rehydrating the wetlands through the use of that well, the sedimentation traps and basins within the balance of the site, those essentially can serve as sedimentation basins, which generally just will collect water, and then it'll either evaporate through normal course of construction. And I think we can actually manage that where we don't necessarily have to dewater these, but if we did have to dewater because we were proposing activity in those areas and there was extensive water accumulation, we've actually provided that would be dewatered to the sedimentation basin in the southeast corner of the site, so that we would not be providing any additional water flow into the westerly wetland system and that westerly vernal pool, which has experienced some additional water than we think had experienced previously. So we're proposing that if any dewatering was to take place from those sedimentation basins, it would be pumped to this basin in the southeast corner to reduce, any flow that would be going to that other system. And we've provided that to go through a filtration bag, so that there wouldn't be any adverse impact or sediment-laden water leaving the site in any way. But we have provided some additional details for that dewatering if it were needed during the duration of construction. We have provided, I think we had done this actually in the previous submission, but all of our phased plans, we identified where permanent and temporary truck scales would be, and how the material would be checked as it comes in throughout the different durations of the phases. We've gone through the timing associated with those phases, I think ad nauseum at this point over the several hearings. One of the other comments that was raised by Commissioner Spence had to do with our proposed landscaping, and we have revised our proposed landscaping. This is the former plan and our new plan, which was submitted. We've provided some additional plantings to the north of Vernal Pool 3 in this area throughout the duration of, up to the limits of our property to provide some additional canopy cover and tree cover in this area. And we have, not only in our overall landscape plan, but also our detailed enlargements, we've provided some additional wetland trees and plantings through that area to restore the area that was cleared as part of another project on 36 Timothy Hill. Additionally, we also revised our detail for our impervious liner to eliminate the reference to the 40 mil poly. And now that liner, we're proposing only to use a natural clay material that meets a specific fine content to ensure that we wouldn't have, it would create that impermeable barrier to make sure that any water that would, fall through this area would still drain towards the wetland. So we've eliminated that plastic liner in response to Commissioner Spence's comment regarding that. We formally submitted the plan for the lot line revision, proposed lot line revision, and the conservation easement area. Again, that easement area is established over the entirety of the wetland systems, and it also includes upland areas in this location here, and some additional upland areas over on the eastern side in this area here. And additionally, through requests from Commissioner Mastroianni and the chairman, we also provided sections which actually show the former grade before any activity, the previously approved grade, and the existing grades. And you can see, so this section runs east-west through the site here. From the property line over, you can see this was the existing grade, were generally the same. The approved grade was in this location through here, and then you can see the depth of the existing grade. And then the other section, which runs north-south through the site, again, you can see the former grade was up here, the 2006 approved grade was here, and then the existing topography. And then as you get further north towards Independence Drive, you can see the severity a little bit more of where the former grade was, where the approved grade was, and where our existing grade is. Again, this is an additional exhibit that we provided to answer that question. However, this doesn't show our proposed grades. We had shown those on the other sections that we had previously presented to the commission. I don't think we really submitted a lot of new information. In our response letter, we also provided some reporting that we would be, we're essentially offering to provide the commission throughout the duration of the project, which I think the commission should consider including in any conditions of approval that they may, if they look at this project favorably. We'd be willing, and we'd like to provide to the Town of Monroe Wetlands Commission our weekly soil erosion sediment control inspection reports, our monthly turbidity monitoring reports, our quarterly visual inspection reports, our semi-annual stormwater discharge chemical analysis reports. And then we've also offered, and Bill Kenny has included this in his report, or his response to George Logan's comments, annual vernal pool assessments. And I think that there was some discussion regarding, how quickly could we see some improvement to these vernal pools. And I think, the sooner this commission can act and we can go through planning and zoning, if we can start rehydrating this wetland in the spring, as in, March of 2021, we may see improved vernal pool activity as early as 2021. And doing this for a few years, 2021, 2022, 2023, and providing those annual reports back to this commission, I think we're very confident that we would actually see improved vernal pool activity in those locations, especially when you look at, the activity from the last assessment from 2020. So, with that, I think, I don't think we've provided a lot of new information. I think it's all been really responses to commission comments. We've tried to be as responsive as we can to all of the discussion throughout the duration of this project. And, this time we're happy to answer any other questions that may have come up from this information or kind of talk through it in any more detail.
Does everybody, I'll poll the commission and see if everybody felt that their questions were satisfactorily answered, starting with, well, I'm not even going to bother. Commissioner Stewart.
I'm good.
Good. Commissioner Gingras.
I'm good.
Commissioner Massaraco. Commissioner Hall.
No new questions.
No new questions. Commissioner Spence.
Where do I start? One of the things that, thank you very much for responding to the comments. I wish they had been responded to a little bit earlier because some of these comments have been in the record for like months and they were responded to this week, which was a little bit upsetting on my part. I appreciate them being responded to, however. The conservation easement only goes as far, in most cases, to the edge of the wetlands, which doesn't really do much when it comes to protecting the wetlands because it doesn't protect any of the upland review. I was thinking in the northeast corner, wouldn't it make sense to extend it to at least beyond where the landscaped areas are so that you protect your investment? It seems like the conservation easement actually could go to where the originally proposed boundary was going to be between Independence and Cambridge. Just because that makes like it's a decent size buffer, I'll say, between the wetlands and the proposed, whatever the activity is going to be on Independence in the future. That was one. And I still don't.
Just to respond to that, I certainly think we can review that with our client, but I certainly wouldn't see any issue with providing that through the area of our proposed plantings, especially along the eastern wetland system. Once we place all that fill, perform all that work, I think that'd be a reasonable request.
Thank you. We need wording for the conservation easement also. I mean, just placing an easement doesn't really say anything unless we know what is allowed, what isn't out, what is not allowed on the property, who's going to be the owner of the easement. There is some question there as to exactly how much is going to happen. We would need, I would imagine it would need to be open enough to go in and remove invasives and to actually work in the property, where many times conservation easements do allow no activity whatsoever. So I would think that we'd need to have some clarification as to exactly what should happen and what should not happen in that easement. I still am questioning why we couldn't fill, instead of going from north to south, why we couldn't fill from east to west, because that would bolster up that area faster. And I mean, you've been proposing the whole time that if this is a remediation plan, and it would seem like the sooner we get that area built up, the sooner we get a drainage area to provide. And I didn't quite understand why that couldn't happen first, as opposed to going from the north to the south.
Our thought process was of trying to deal with the southern portion, 64 Cambridge Drive first, was because that existing part of the site, it's relatively flat. It's relatively ready to receive, potential development applications, but there's a number of stockpiles there that kind of need to get processed and cleaned out so we can really kind of prep that area so that it can, you know, it can be marketable for potential future activity while we're doing everything, while we continue to do the work in the back. And additionally, we wanted to make sure we filled that deepest point as soon as possible. And I think Mr. Dorenzo kind of echoed that statement where we should get that filled as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
To get up and out of that groundwater. So we definitely wanted to.
I said, that's another question. If you were only filling the hole, how long do you think that would take?
Well, our phase 1 plan includes filling the rear portion of the site up and out of that water.
But
So,
yeah, if you were only going to fill it to elevation 411, 412, something like that, how long would that take? I'm just curious. Just ballpark.
I mean, I think that could probably be done in, I'm going to say 3 to 5 months.
Okay, thank you. Question regarding that. I had asked this question earlier. What source of water is going into the detention basin in the northwest corner? Is it only the water from Independence Drive? Or is there more water?
Right now, this basin is fed. There is stormwater along Enterprise and along Independence, which is collected and routed into this basin through catch basins and pipes. That includes the roadway drainage and some contributing drainage from a couple of these properties.
There was at one point, I'll go back. The impervious liner, the clay liner that we're talking about, that is going to extend so far into the Enterprise property. I'm concerned that that's gone so far into that property. Yes, it's 6 feet under, but if you put a hole in that with a backhoe that goes a little bit too deep, all of a sudden you've created a drain. And everything that's above grade of that can possibly drain into that hole. Therefore, it's not going to get down to where it needs to go. And my concern is that so much of that impervious liner is over 2/3 of that piece of property. I'm very uncomfortable with that, and I don't see how that can be built on safely at only 6 feet. Yet I understand you can't go down much more than 6 feet because of the liner. And so I wanted to know why we couldn't push that liner further, increase the grade push the grade over closer to what you had originally done it, where the steep grade started at Enterprise boundary line between those two. And you don't have to answer that right now because that leads me to another question. I wanted to ask our wetlands experts, all of the ones that we have present. Everybody, not everybody. Russ had said that he felt the wetland was toast. And George Logan said that he felt that the wetland only had a 50% chance of recovering with this plan. I wanted to know, did either of them, Chris Sullivan isn't here, I would have asked him too. Did anybody change their opinion as to whether or not this plan could work with the new procedure? And you can feel free to chime in because I'd like to have that question answered.
No, I haven't changed my opinion. I think it's a 30% chance of.
Okay, so the bedrock well, as opposed to the dewatering of the sediment basins, does not change your opinion?
I think what's important is that.
Can't hear you well.
And for the record, it's Russ Dorenzo.
Yeah, Russ Dorenzo. Could you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Russ Dorenzo. I think what's important is what Mr. Logan said, is that there's nothing on record that anything like this has ever been tried or been successful. And the projects that the applicant put forward as success it's not apples to oranges, not even close to taking down a dam and restoring wetlands on a river. It's never been done that I could find, and Mr. Logan couldn't find. And I put a 30% chance of this succeeding, but the commission needs to look at what the applicant is proposing and make a decision on whether it's the best step forward, and using the 6 reasons why you either approve or deny an application. But I haven't changed my opinion. I'm more positive because I never would approve taking water from a detention basin and pumping it into a vernal pool. That's not what detention basins are for. Detention basins are meant to they're meant to take care of stormwater and make stormwater better, and not put it into a vernal pool. So I like that they talk about a bedrock well. It's a better idea, and it's up to the commission whether they feel it's a good idea or not.
Thank you. Mr. Logan?
Yeah, certainly. I think I can echo what Russ has said. And, you know, I can certainly appreciate that more and more effort has been put forth by the applicant and his consultants regarding restoring the hydrology to wetland 2 and to 3. And don't forget that we have that embedded, very large, previously very productive vernal pool. However, in my professional opinion, even though I think we might be getting closer, and you know, I've seen some positive things, like Russ said, going to a bedrock well rather than taking water that was questionable from runoff. I don't think this restoration plan yet is ready for prime time. And you know, you've often heard the devil's in the details, and the details are still under development and somewhat vague, and I don't think they've been fully thought through, at least so we can see it. I mean, some intimations were done today by Mr. Soley that there will be some kind of an irrigation program that would mimic as much as possible what is naturally done through precipitation and runoff. But those are the kinds of things that you would want to see and review before the closing of a public hearing. So again, certainly getting there, but not robust enough in my mind to ensure some measure of success of restoring these wetlands, especially, as I said before, when I couldn't find any examples for this kind of restoration for this kind of forested habitat.
Thank you. And Mr. Kenny, obviously you do feel this is going to work, but I have to give you equal time.
Sure, thank you very much. You know, I just, this is really I keep coming back to a water management project, and there is just, I've worked on many projects where we've created new wetlands, and this in so many ways is easier because we don't have to worry about the vegetation and the grading of the wetland and shaping the wetland and putting the soils in it. All we need to do is get the water to it. When we create a new wetland, we have to first build the wetland, then we have to put the soils and the plants, and then at the end we need to make sure water is getting to it. And so this, I just see this, we know what the watershed was that supported this wetland. We're going to reestablish that watershed. In the interim, we're going to pump, but it's going to be based on that watershed size and precipitation over many years. So I just, yeah, I think it's much easier than creating a new wetland. And new wetlands are being created successfully every day throughout the country. And so,
Thank you.
Commissioner Spence, you have anything further?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to see what the wetlands experts also felt about the impervious liner and the possibility of it being breached multiple times by a backhoe.
Commissioner Spence, you hold that question, because I have a further clarification about what the topic you were previously on. So before we switch over,
Oh, sure.
we got so the pump, the deep bed, rock bed pump, that runs just for construction, the course of construction, or is that permanent?
Yes, that would just run until the watershed itself was restored. Correct.
Now, Commissioner Spence mentioned, or somebody I think said, using this source of water versus the previous source of water, but wouldn't you be combining the two together? Because you still have to dewater those
No.
settling pond. How would you
So,
be
yes.
dewatering this? Go ahead.
So I did mention that before. So what we did is if we have to dewater those sedimentation basins, what we've done is we've provided for that dewatering to occur and to direct it to the proposed sedimentation basin in the southeast corner of the site, so that it still mimics overall watershed patterns and doesn't inundate the westerly wetland system with any dewatering, as has been the evidenced in the past.
I got you. And what's the flow rate going to be out of like a well like that deep well?
Well, I'm not sure what the exact flow rate is today out of that well, but when you actually look at it, and what it needs, again, on average, it would need about 2,000 gallons per day, which is not that high of a flow and can easily be accomplished and is well within the, and is well below any kind of thresholds that would require a diversion permit or anything like that from DEP.
Okay. That was it.
Okay, back to me.
Yes.
So I still want to know once the pump is no longer functional and you've got your clay liner and it gets breached, now depending on where it's breached and how often it's breached, you may lose your entire watershed. We don't have any alternate plans. We don't have a way of judging. I'm still looking, and I've asked you for this every single time, for a detailed narrative and a much more specific timeline. You look at the plans include things that can happen over 3 years. How is that to be monitored by our town staff? There's no benchmarks. There's no say, okay, after we put this in, then we put that in. It all just kind of gets conglomerated on the plan. There's not enough detail. Like all of our experts have said, there's not enough detail in so many different places. And that has me very concerned. I want to know, I still don't know exactly when does that well distribution gallery or whatever it's going to be get put in. I didn't see any time.
So you had asked this question last time about the perforated pipe. That perforated pipe is no longer part of the plan because we're now proposing to rehydrate using the bedrock well. That would be put in on day one, so we could start restoring that rehydration plan immediately. And while our plans and our narratives are extensive, and the information is there. And while I'm not sure exactly, the devil's in the details, I'm still at a loss for what details aren't included. And while we provided some additional information in our last letter that talks about additional reporting that we're offering to provide to the commission, I'd also encourage the commission to include an additional condition that requires the applicant to provide a presentation to the commission on an annual basis that can summarize the condition of the property and how much material has been brought in place, and to provide site photos and things like that. We're offering to come before the commission and to do that, and it's really up to the commission to establish the specifics regarding those conditions. We started with providing 5 bullet points of what we think should be included in that, and we'd encourage you to include additional bullet points. I'll say that the Planning and Zoning Commission is also likely going to require a quarterly inspection report, which has been provided on this property since 2007, I believe. And those reports went to town staff, including the reports that talked about how much material left the property. I think for this commission to include a condition that requires the applicant to come before the commission, whether it's annually or biannually or whatever frequency you think is appropriate, to provide pictures and quantities and all of that information. But I think that the details are here. I think there's but again, specific details that you're looking for, I want to make sure we provide them. But I'm at a loss for what's missing.
I don't know. I guess I'm one of these people who likes to see step-by-step directions, kind of like a Lego set. You know, you have to put on the black one before the white one goes on. That's the kind of things that I like to see in more detail rather than a 3-year lump. You say we have a detailed narrative, but I look on every single page, the instructions or whatever it is that are up in the corner, but they're not the same as a narrative that I would like to see for our staff. I want Monroe to be comfortable with seeing what is happening, and if what is happening is what was said was going to be happening. And that's, I'm sure you're going to prove me wrong right now, and that's fine if you do, but I just want to make sure that we have all the details that we need so that our staff can follow through. We only have one shot at this, so we need to do it in the proper way.
You know, again, in our engineering report and in our narrative, we provided a detailed sequencing for the 3 phases. In our plans, we have, this is by far, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different sheets just dedicated to the soil erosion sediment control phasing. And we have a detailed sequence of construction narrative written out with operational requirements and everything else on sheet 2.41. So I do believe it's there. I believe it's baked into the cake. And I think it's a cross between our reports and our narratives that we've submitted and the plans themselves. I do believe it's there.
Okay, all right. I'm jumping around a little bit because my notes are kind of scratchy. But at one point during one hearing, I heard there was something, a layer between, start over again. When we fill the hole, you're going to fill it to where you feel that I think it was around 411, I believe is what you were proposing. And that was what you feel is the seasonal high water table. And then I heard something about a layer between that fill and what goes above it. I don't know if it was a pervious layer or an impervious layer.
It would just be a filter fabric, not impervious, but just to prevent the migration of any sediment between. So it'll still allow water to pass through, but it wouldn't allow fines to pass through.
Okay, that was my question. I wasn't really sure. And what happens? Do you have any alternate plan? If this, say, in a year or 2 years, and it's not working, what do we do? What kind of alternate plans have we got? This is something that I think is one of the details that is inferred by our experts, because they don't feel it's gonna work. So what do we do if it doesn't work? That's one of my major questions. That alternative thing.
So this is a unique application because it's a restoration application in response to a notice of violation for activities conducted on a property by a previous owner. The current property owner has engaged a number of consultants and professionals and several attorneys who are all on this call. And we've proposed this plan to address that notice of violation done by others. And this proposed activity is to restore the site, restore the watershed, to address the impacts that were caused by the over-excavation and reduction in that watershed. The applicant team believes that this will work to help restore that vernal pool and that habitat that has been degraded due to the loss of watershed. I think the commission is obviously looking at how to, looking at this application in response to the violation, to clear up the violation. We put our best forward as this is the best way to do that. And I think Mr. Dorenzo even said the placing of the fill will not impact the wetlands in a negative way. And I think we've also demonstrated that the historical activities on the site from a fill standpoint have not resulted in any undue economic or environmental harm to the property or to the groundwater or surrounding wetlands. We've been able to demonstrate that the material has been placed, has been clean, and it didn't create any of those issues. So at this time, we're proposing this is the best way to try to restore that vernal pool activity, that vernal pool habitat. And, you know, the concerns regarding the duration between now and the amount of time it will take to place that material, we've addressed that by now rehydrating through a bedrock well. So we've been trying to be as responsive as possible and put our best foot forward to do this. In terms of alternatives, from a restoration and a response to the violation, I don't see any other alternatives for this property, on this property, to address the impacts caused by a previous owner. And from a alternative standpoint, state statutes require alternatives for projects that result with direct wetland impact. This project does not propose any direct wetland impacts. It's in fact a restoration project. It is to address previous wetland impacts. So I don't believe, so I'm not sure how to address the alternative issue if there are no alternatives nor alternatives required. If this is the—
Well, I'll stop you right there, if I may, because this part is not an application for development. The alternatives are required. You don't require an alternate if there's no significant activity. But in a mediation activity, this is different. We can ask for other things. This is not the same as an application for development. Yes, the application for development is part of it, but it is not part of the remediation. So I do think that I'm justified in asking for alternatives if we need them. So just to clarify, because I do think that there's a difference of opinion there.
Lois, on that line, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Kevin, are you so certain that this is going to work that you're willing to accept a condition that following the completion of the project, you'll study the vernal pool for a period of, let's say, 3 years, report on it, and if it's not working, regrade the site to either increase the runoff area or decrease the runoff area to make it work? Or is this a case where you say, well, we designed it and that's the best we did and we did our best and that's it?
I think we would happily accept a condition of approval like that. And I think it shouldn't only include an analysis of the vernal pools after the project's been completed, but as we've offered to the commission, we believe that the applicant should provide vernal pool assessments annually throughout the duration of the project. So that in spring, and at the end of the vernal pool season in 2021, we can provide an assessment on how that activity has been compared to 2020, and then repeat that same analysis in 2022, and hopefully see incremental improvements along the way. And then by the time we completed this project in 10 years, it's going to have already had that established improved activity.
The problem is, if it's not working, then what happens? We don't have any other plans. Are you going to bring back another application for another way to approach it? Or are you just going to say, oh, well, it's not working. What do we do? I don't know what we can do, so we're not going to do anything. This is the kind of thing that is so nebulous and makes me uncomfortable. Because two of our 3 experts say it definitely won't work. No, they didn't say definitely. They have very small chance of working. Mr. Kenny kind of hedged. He didn't actually say, yeah, this is going to work. He said there's a good possibility of it because it's so new. So if it doesn't work, are we stuck with this? Or should we shorten the time period and say, okay, if it's not working within 5 years, then you have to bring in a new application with something that will work. or that at least another try. This is.
Kevin, Kevin and Commissioner Spence, it's Arnold Karp. You know, I've sat here through a series of meetings. I've got an alternative, Lois. If our program doesn't work in 3 years, I will donate $10,000 to a land use commission, okay? They can use that money if they see that in 3 to 5 years, and we'll come up with the right timing, that the wetlands aren't being restored. And the reason I offer that is we seem to be caught at a point where doing nothing is not an alternative. I believe that we have offered several good alternatives and some very good alternatives on a piece of property that, you know, this didn't happen overnight. It took 18 or 19 years to get to the point where we're now trying to solve an issue, not done but caused by us. But I've heard a lot of what won't work. Can somebody tell me what they think would work? But I'm prepared to go back our program with if not, we will make a cash contribution of $10,000 to the right environmental group if this isn't a means to an end. I think that, you know, I've watched all the discussions about wetlands being toast. You know, I'm going to submit a project again. Russ will tell me that the wetlands are different, but we took a piece of property that had grocery carts and the like in it, and now it is a model wetlands in Fairfield County.
So, thank you. I'd like to interject for a minute. Russ, we had we spoke about the so Russ, why don't you just your thoughts on this as far as what happens if what they're proposing to do doesn't in fact work?
Well, my confusion is they're saying within 3 years, but they're saying it's going to take them 10 years to get to the point where the property is filled and it naturally is back to what it was. So in 3 years, the vernal pool may be doing well because we're pumping water out of a bedrock well. But in 10 years, do we know that trying to mimic nature, which is what they're trying to do, will work? And the fact is, I think it's highly unlikely that you could mimic nature in any way. It's very hard to create vernal pools, even when you have good conditions. I hear what Lois is saying. I think she's an expert. Listening to her, I don't know what you do, Lois, but I think you should probably be an environmental consultant because you're asking all the right questions. I'm sitting here at 10:30 at night after you've been at this for 3.5 hours or whatever, and you're asking all the right questions. Is this the best plan? What is what's the guarantee? Is what you're asking those. So there is no guarantee. So and the applicant is proposing something. You need to look at what they're proposing and make a decision on it. I think it's as simple as that. There is no guarantee to anything in nature. You can't mimic nature. You, the commission, did not propose this plan. They proposed it. It's their plan, not yours. So it's up to them. They put it forward. I think you're at a point now where you use your regulations to make a decision. And if things bother you about this plan, then you deny it without prejudice. If you think this is the best plan for the wetlands, we keep getting off the wetlands. What's the best plan for the wetlands? if you think this is the best plan for the wetlands, then you should vote for it. Personally, I think that the applicant has gone with great strides to try to come up with everything you've brought forward. And even after that, if you're not comfortable, then don't be afraid to make a vote as you see fit.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you, Russ. I would only offer to that, Russ made a great point. The application before the commission is to address the violation and try to restore the site to the best of our ability. And I think our application includes a lot of components that will be a great benefit to the on-site resources through the extensive plantings that we're proposing around the wetlands, through trying to restore the limits of the habitat, and the fact that we're proposing a conservation easement over 20 acres on this piece of property, which includes not only wetland areas, but upland areas. And we've also agreed and offered this evening to expand that to include and capture more of the upland area to the wetland on the eastern side of the site and vernal pool 2. I think all of those components are very beneficial to the wetlands. And I think those will go a long way in providing additional future protections to these on-site resources that don't exist in the current condition.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a couple of points, if I may. It's Attorney Finn on behalf of the applicant.
Sure.
I was struck by a couple of things. Number one, those people who say the plan won't work have not come up with an alternative and don't really say why it won't work. All they say is generally, we don't think it's going to work. Mr. Kenny, on the other hand, has explained precisely why he thinks it will work. Why, with respect to the creation of wetlands, getting water to create a new wetland is something that has been successful many, many times, and he's justified the basis for his opinion. With all respect, I haven't heard anything specific as to why they don't think this will work, and that's troubling to me. In addition, I did ask Mr. Dorenzo a while back a couple of questions you may or may not recall. It was probably 2 or 3 hearings ago about how does one, if the view is that you need natural rainfall to hydrate a wetland and you don't, and that's not possible. You cannot mimic nature. How do you ever rehydrate a wetland? And he basically said,
Mr. Chairman, I can answer when Mr. Finn is ready. I can answer everyone. Everything he's saying, I'm ready.
We'll go right to you.
I don't mean to be critical. I'm just trying to figure out if this plan doesn't work, what plan would work. And
I don't take it as criticism.
Russ, hold on. I want to make sure Mr. Finn finishes his comment.
Look,
we need, hold on. We need to wrap this up in the next few minutes.
And my last point is this, to the extent that you can certainly build in conditions about what should happen if the plan to rehydrate the wetland is not successful in the first 3 years, the first 5 years, or 10 years. You can have assessments whenever you want, and to the extent that you come to the conclusion that the plan was not successful, the alternative, which I believe Mr. Dorenzo suggested in his report, was that the applicant make a donation to a conservation group to perform mitigation in another area. And Mr. Karp just mentioned that. So to the extent this plan does not work, and I think we should all hope it does work, right? Because we all believe that rehydrating this wetland is the best mitigation you could have. And to give up on that, I think, is a shame, especially if there's not an alternative that has a better chance of rehydrating this wetland. And as I've said, I haven't heard any alternative to rehydrating this wetland. So what are we left with? We're left with a donation to a conservation group to perform mitigation and the creation of a wetland or whatever that conservation group thinks is best on another location. And the applicant is willing to do that. So We can go back and forth about whether it's going to work or not work, but I think we all would like to give it a chance. And if it doesn't work, the applicant has to come up with mitigation by making a donation so that mitigation can occur someplace else. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And Russ, before you answer that, I'm just listening about these ideas for, if this plan doesn't work and what the alternatives are. I guess my question to you, Russ, you could answer when you respond is, what about a mitigation space like left in escrow, so to speak? I don't know how to really say it, but if it wasn't to work, like a piece of land is left untouched to be the alternative for a mitigation process, whether it's on-site or off-site, but predetermined. Is that anything that could work here?
That's not part of the application. First of all, Mr. Finn, I've said over and over again, this won't work because you can't mimic things like porosity, how natural rainwater was percolating into the ground when it was natural, and how much of it ran off. It's impossible. No, even Bill could agree that you're not going to put this back the way it was. The same densities, the same things that the glaciers did. It's not going to happen. It's a bottom line. I'm convinced of that. I think what you're proposing is admirable. And Kevin Soley is not a good engineer, he's exceptional. He really is. He's an exceptional engineer. And I'll say that straight out. The problem with this plan is you want to mimic nature, and that's impossible. But I'm not going to make the decision for the commission. I'm not saying that the plan is flawed or it shouldn't be, the commission shouldn't take it up. Absolutely, they should. But they should understand the drawbacks of it, and that the chances of it being successful are less than half. Is it better than nothing? That's up to the commission to decide. That's not up to me to decide. But, Bill Kenny has said over and over, the plant life in the vernal pool has not been affected and won't be affected. The hydrology in the vernal pool, it's in the big picture of things, it doesn't matter. It's a small thing on the hydrology of the whole watershed. What's been impacted is the wildlife, the amphibians, the frogs and the fairy shrimp. And they moved. They went from New York to Monroe. They went to vernal pool 3 to vernal pool 4. So it's your plan. You're the one who proposed this, not the commission. You want to fill a hole that was illegally created up to its original grade with the premise that it will bring back this vernal pool. And I don't think it will. But I didn't pose the question. The commission didn't pose the question. This is your question. This is what you proposed, not us, not me. So the commission has asked the right questions, and we have said there are other options. There's mitigation that could be done right on the site that I believe would be better suited for the environment, but that's up to the commission. I believe that this plan should have been presented differently. I think there's too many things going on at once. There's a development plan, there's a mitigation plan, and there's a plan, could we fill this hole? It's all melded into this. Somebody who's been on a commission myself for 30 years, it's hard to figure out what the plan really is. I think Kevin's done a wonderful job. Don't get me wrong. Kevin and the professionals that surround him, if anybody could have sold this or can sell it, it's them. They've done a wonderful job. They put a lot into this. It's now up to the commission, really. We could go on and on. Um, I I don't think it's a flawed plan. I think it's a plan now that there's been enough asked for the commission of Monroe to decide whether they are behind this or they're not. And remember, this is all about wetlands. It really is. It's if they fill this and they try to mitigate that vernal pool and they fail, what's the downside? What happens? What could the commission do to guarantee that if it does fail, what things could you put in place? And it shouldn't be your call, because if you do that and you make all these conditions, the intervener is going to appeal, because there's a recent Supreme Court ruling that says the intervener has to have a say in the final outcome. So we're in a quandary as commissions. So my advice is evaluate it, what is in front of you. Evaluate it, listen to all the experts. And as Keith said, and he's right, the chairman said, well, don't listen to me. You're not cogs in a wheel. I'm just trying to direct you in the right way to make sure that you make the right decision. But I don't know if this will work or not. Nobody knows. Nobody knows better than you do. You've heard it for 9 months now, I think. It's time to make this decision. Really is. I think the intervener needs the chance to speak out, and that should be at another time, because it's 10:39, and the news is coming up. So that's why I recommended a second meeting. But that's where you're at. There's been a lot of information in front of you. It's not a bad plan. It's not a good plan. And that's what we're about as commissions. You need to make a decision whether you're comfortable. And just listen to all the experts and decide which one you want to believe. That's basically what it's all about.
Thank you, Russ. Do you have, we're going to close this up. The applicant have any final words before the next meeting?
Kevin Soley, I would just ask if Lois had any other questions. I think we kind of went off on a really great discussion there, but I don't know if she was finished, and I want to make sure we adequately address all of her questions to the best of our ability.
Thank you. I did have just a couple of others, and these are more detail-oriented kind of questions. At what point do you see the impervious liner going in? At what year out of 10?
9. And that's one of the questions and concerns that you have raised, because as we those final feet of fill, that's kind of part is proposed as phase 3, because it's going to take that much time for us to find and source all that material to place. And I know there's been a lot of concern about where that, if an excavator penetrates that liner, it's going to completely drain the entire watershed, contributing to that. We're not going to have that work anymore. I'd just like to point out that there are a lot of these liners that are put in as part of environmental remediation projects, caps over environmental contaminations. Those projects only typically provide 2 feet of fill above those liners. So what we're providing provides a much more robust buffer. But I'm also going to point out that the entire goal of this project is to take a piece of property that has been almost, a scar on the land that needs to be remediated and restored in order to create it to be a functional, contributing economic piece of property to the community. Because this is in the heart of an industrial park. The intent was to develop this to put buildings on it and to create commercial tax base, industrial tax base, etc. If it's going to take us 9 years to get to the point where we're putting in that liner, and the concern is about penetrating that liner, it is, I think, everyone's desire that by the time we get to that point, we'll have a different type of application in front of the commission to consider, with a proposed building and a proposed parking lot that's going to create impervious surface that's then going to be captured and collected through stormwater management systems and cleaned from a water quality standpoint, and still discharged to the same wetland system to maintain and mimic that same contributing watershed. So I think, the goals are to create this into a situation where we're not only relying on that liner, and thankfully we have a little bit of time before we get to that point, but I think there are, I think from an application standpoint, as it sits before you, I think we've tried to do our best to build everything we can as robustly as possible with the natural resources at the forefront of the concept.
Okay, one more thing that I just read into. That is that the basin, the sedimentation basin in the southeast corner of the property, you said is going to be receiving the dewatering proceeds. And yet I think I saw it in phase 1 that you've got a planting plan for that basin. Am I misplacing phases or something? But I could have sworn I saw that being planted in phase 1. But as a sedimentation basin, you don't want to plant it.
So at the end of, so there is planting to be proposed within that basin. You can see here, we're proposing a New England wetland matrix plant mix. We're proposing some additional wetland plantings. There was some talk about, this is an area that we're also proposing some additional wetland plants, trying to create additional area. The timing in which that planting would happen, from a dewatering standpoint, the dewatering takes place as we need to, but in most construction sites, sedimentation basins are not dewatered, because while water flows to them, heat evaporation takes place and those sedimentation basins dry out on their own, especially during the summer months. We get a flash storm, water flows to the basins. In a day or two, all that water is evaporated and it's gone. So we don't intend to necessarily need to dewater. But if we do need to, in order to manage material or move material or adjust the basin, we would only then be proposing to do that in here, and we would be doing that through a filter bag. And by pumping to a filter bag, we're actually not discharging sediment into the basin itself. The filter bag captures all that sediment so that you can then pick that up with an excavator. You can clean it out, you can dump it out, and you can replace it. So we wouldn't be dewatering sediment-laden water directly into that basin. We'd have other measures in place so that the water that would actually get into that basin would be clean and could go through a normal process as if that was a normal basin.
Okay, I think that's all I can find right now.
Thank you, Commissioner Spence.
I just want to make sure that all of Denise's and Scott's comments are addressed before we close this. That's not tonight, but I want to make sure that we do have that on the list of things that we need to address. Thank you.
So we have provided detailed responses to both Denise and Scott's comments. We've gotten, I think we got a second round of comments from Scott, which we've addressed. But I don't think we've gotten a second round of comments from Denise. I think she was also kind of wanting to make sure that she had all the final plans. But, again, we've certainly tried to do everything we can. Scott had concerns about the watersheds to the basins and making sure we're matching pre and post. We provided all that as part of our revised information, I think back in September. So I think we've done our best to adequately address all comments from staff, but we agree. We want to make sure they're comfortable as well.
Scott
But we
and I
also
will have our
know
comments
that.
done shortly.
Thank you, Denise.
Yep, just so you know.
But we also want to move on from this application. As much as I love seeing everyone every few weeks and now every week, I think we've tried to do our best to put our best foot forward. And I thank Russ for his comments, because I certainly we certainly try to put our best foot forward, and I think we've done as best we can. And hopefully the commission agrees.
All right, thank you, Kevin. But Kevin, let me ask you one quick thing before we close. Can you just really quickly just go over the pros and cons, I guess is the best way to pose this, between the plastic liner and the clay liner? Just run through it real quick, because, Commissioner Spence had made a comment that she'd prefer one over the other. And I think it's fair for all the rest of the commissioners to know, what the pros and cons are.
Sure. So so because this liner is something that's going to come into play much later on in the process, our initial detail called out for that impervious liner to either be a natural material with a higher fine content to ensure that water wouldn't pass through it, or a mixture of native material and bentonite clay. Or a third option would be to just a 40 mil poly liner or plastic liner to ensure, again, that any water that falls would just run along that liner, whether it's the clay, compacted clay, or the mill poly. Lois had expressed some concerns regarding using 40 mil poly as a liner. So we actually removed that as an option, but we maintained the other options of just the, the bentonite clay combination, or just a material that has a specific fine content passing the number 200 sieve. From a benefit standpoint, I think they're interchangeable. I don't believe that either option has a positive or benefit, or positive or negative impact from an environmental standpoint, because these are all placed, well below proposed superficial grade. We really, from an engineering standpoint, we don't see any real difference amongst those options. But I think, in Lois's desire to keep a non-native material used in the placement of this fill, we're happy to remove the poly, the higher mill poly as an alternative.
Okay, thank you. All right. I think we're going to be all set for tonight. Was there anything else on the agenda that I missed, or are we ready to close?
It's Arnold Carp. I have one quick question. I just heard Denise say that she and Scott are planning on giving comments. When might we expect those?
We should have them done tomorrow. We were still trying to go through the new stuff that we had on Monday.
Okay, and these are additional comments on our plan tightening, or are they
Well, they may
general?
be comments in regards to the questions we had and answers. I can't speak for Scott, what his comments are. I don't know, but he's still working on the review of the new material as well.
Okay, and we would like this material back into your department by Friday at 10?
Yeah, I think that's what was decided earlier. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll tell my staff to sleep extra tonight so they don't have to sleep tomorrow.
Well, I mean, we got it on Monday too, Kevin. So, I mean, we're doing the best we can as well.
I understand that, but I think we provided our response to comments to your comments and Scott's comments in September. And the plan changes that have been provided from them are not substantive.
Well, most of the, the review, most of the stuff you had answered on mine. I haven't come up with anything new as of yet.
So hopefully that'll be the case.
And not saying that I
we do
will be
look forward
coming
to
up
seeing
with
it.
anything new or not. I'm just saying, you responded. I wanted to know, make sure I had the latest stuff. And I assume what we got Monday was the latest stuff.
Yes.
So.
Yep. And I think we tried to summarize those changes in
Yeah.
the mission letter.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn to me, a second by Commissioner, a motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Gingers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes unanimously. This hearing closes at 10:51 p.m.